Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and young men in front of me. Tonight on November 11th at 7:10, we called a session this meeting of the Arlington Independent School District Board of Trustees. I want to thank everyone for coming out with us this evening. We'll start our evening off with the opening ceremony. Please join our student, Betsy Hernandez, in leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh, sorry, Chloe. Chloe, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, please silence all cell phones and electronic devices to avoid disruptions around you. And if you would, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. The first item on our agenda tonight is program and presentation. We have the distinct honor of first having our student performance tonight. If you can't tell, this is the Young Men's Group from Young Junior High School for our student performance. The directors Christy Jones and Keith Daniels. They will be performing Find the Cost of Freedom. Ms. Daniels? Or Ms. Jones? Throwing him so far off tonight.
Stills wrote Find the Cost of Freedom for Crosby, Stills, and Nash because he was moved after visiting a Civil War battle. After 9/11, this is the song Jay Leno requested to be the first song sung on The Tonight Show as a way of honoring those who died in the attacks. Tonight, we will sing in honor of the upcoming Veterans Day and the men and women who have bravely served our country.
let me just say a few words about these young men. First, let me thank the directors. To get this many young men participating and sounding as wonderful as they sound, that's a true feat. You guys have a true talent. These young men are one of only 2 junior high groups in 7 state regions selected out of nearly 100 entries to sing at the Southwest American Choral Directors Association Convention in Little Rock, Arkansas this coming March. We like to know how great they are, but we don't have a problem letting other people know also. So it's always good when they've got that. Congratulations, young men. Great job. Next up on the agenda, we have our High School Student of the Month. Ms. Bass, will you please come up to the front? Let me read a little bit about Chloe Bass. Chloe's a fantastic student who always pushed herself with the most rigorous of coursework. She has been in all pre-AP core classes for core classes and has committed to the biomedical sciences career prep coursework. She has already been recognized by Baylor University as a top soccer recruit and has been invited by many universities across Texas for visits as they are currently pursuing her for her academic as well as her athletic abilities. Chloe started on the Lamar varsity soccer team as a freshman. She plays on a nationally ranked club soccer team outside of school. Her club team placed 7th in the nation over the summer with much of the leadership coming from Chloe. When asked to represent Lamar High School at our district track meet, she accepted and won a couple of races for our school. This is a sport she has not participated in since 7th grade, but was willing to help out her school. Her most impressive quality is her strong commitment to service learning. She just recently returned from a week in Kenya, Africa, for the purpose of helping to build homes for disadvantaged families. This was a mission trip that has been a long time in development. Chloe has been dedicated to this mission for many years, as evidenced by the meeting of her longtime pen pal in Africa while she was there. She has a young girl, age 10, who she's pen pals with, and they finally were able to spend some time together while Chloe was doing her mission work in Africa. Chloe is encouraging her mentee to graduate from her public high school. Chloe commands the respect of her teachers and peers through great moral character, leadership, and following through on her commitments. Let me present to you the AISD Student of the Month from Lamar High School, Ms. Chloe Bass. Now, Chloe, this is a pretty distinct honor. We only represent 1 student a month in the whole district, so outside of your school also. You're the only one from Lamar that will be represented this year. It's a really distinct honor. We're very proud of you. You're the students that make all this work really worthwhile on everything we're doing. So we always ask you, and we like to ask a couple of questions. And I always open it up to my colleagues. What's your future plans? I hear you're looking at Baylor.
Yes.
I always encourage you to A&M, but that's okay. And we're glad you're here, even though you're missing the Baylor football game tonight. We appreciate that also. Tell us, Chloe, what's been your driving force, and anyone you'd like to introduce this evening also?
Well, tonight I have my mom here, my dad, and my grandma. And I'd like to thank my parents and my grandma for just, they're always here for me. They're always supporting me and pushing me to do the best I can, as well as Mr. Jones. He kind of rocks. And I have other colleges looking at me, but I would like to go to Baylor. That's my top choice. And I would like to go into the medical field and hopefully be like a doctor for a third world country. Hopefully Kenya, so I can spend some more time with my girl.
Chloe, I have a feeling you can do anything you put your mind to it.
Thank
so
you.
I'm very proud of that. Mr. Harmon, would you like to come up and say any other words for awarding Ms. Bass?
Yeah, your introduction said it well for Chloe. Chloe and Mr. and Mrs. Bass know that our faculty chose Chloe for this honor. We know traditionally it goes to a senior. Chloe's a sophomore, and that through our department chairs and the faculty, she was nominated for this award because she's outstanding. And she's a leader and well-known beyond the teachers that serve traditionally the freshman and sophomore students. So there's high expectations among the staff that teach juniors and seniors at Lamar High School, and we're going to expect that you're going to be one of our top graduates in 2 years. So congratulations again.
Congratulations. And Ms. Ms. Bass and Mr. Harmon, if you would, please stay right there. The superintendent, I'd like to come down and give you something. Chloe, on behalf of the board, congratulations on being the outstanding student of the month for the whole school district. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And also, you'll see only the board and the superintendent are allowed to award pins. I encourage you to put this on your ID badge, or you can wear it every day on your lapel pin as much as you'd like. This is just a sign. Congratulations, the leadership award within the district. Thank you so much. We're just glad we'll get to see Chloe for the next 2.5 years. So what's she going to win next year? That's the key. Congratulations. And parents, grandparents, congratulations. Thank you so much. Next on the item is item C, 2013 Hero for Children Award presentation. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg, and we'd like to make a special presentation of the 2013 Hero for Children Award, and we'd like to ask Pat Hardy, our State Board of Education representative, to come forward and present this high honor for one of our community members.
I want you to know I am so impressed already. And do you think maybe we can get that boys choir to come to the state board presentation on a Friday morning? They were incredible. And this Chloe, I have a feeling you're going to do everything that you're planning on doing and then some. My goodness. And it is an honor for me to be here. The State Board of Education does this where we select one person, and we have a lot of nominations from the district. There are over, like 1.5 million people in the naked city here, and that they nominate, different places nominate. And your nomination, when you read about his story, it will bring tears to your eyes because Mr. Andrus has done an incredible amount of work. But what was most impressive to me, that he has been doing it for 22 years, and that is just incredible. And for those of you who don't know what he does, I have a feeling everybody in this room does, that he is a tutor, a math tutor, and I wondered where you were when I needed you about 40 years ago. Could I have just died and gone to heaven to have someone like this? But someone who spends their time and has a joy and brings such help, but just support to the kids and everything else. I am just overwhelmed and honored. Actually, I was going to go to the thing that some of y'all went to with Diane Patrick, and I kind of got in traffic, and I thought, I have got to make it to that board meeting. This is so much more important because I am excited about meeting Mr. Andrus myself. And so, Mr. Andrus, you would like to come up, please? We have a bag of goodies, and on this bag it says Texas Education Agency, and I would suggest he not carry it too many places. It might get him into trouble. This is a lot more fun than my board meeting where I have to deal with HB 5. You are quite the gentleman, and I appreciate your work so much. And what y'all didn't know is the reason we're doing this here is because he didn't want to take the time away from school and the kids. So he had to have his special thing at night, not at the state board meeting. So you are an inspiration.
Please tell me you didn't come all the way up here just for this.
I live in Fort Worth.
Oh.
I'm in this district. No.
Mr. Andrus, she can drive from wherever to recognize you for your hard work.
Hey, I did get into a lot of traffic, though. I want you to know that.
I appreciate that.
This is from the governor, and this is in honor of your work as the Hero for Children in 2013 for District 11.
Pat, would you read that resolution?
Yes. Wait, this is not the resolution. Where did I leave the resolution? I don't have the resolution with me.
Yeah, read the plaque then. That's okay.
This is the
There we
resolution.
go.
Slow learner up here.
It's long.
Well, this is the resolution, whereas volunteers can have both large and small impacts on the lives of children and influence positive outcomes in many different ways, whereas the State Board of Education recognizes the public school volunteers serve the school children of Texas through many avenues, including sharing time, interests, and personal skills and socialization, whereas despite, well, then I'll go down to find you, and where are you? Whereas, after retiring in 1989, Thomas P. Andrus, Jr. decided he wanted to work with children and for the past 22 years has volunteered at Venture High School and the Arlington ISD. Be it resolved, the State Board of Education recognizes these outstanding individuals as heroes for children, and be it further resolved that this resolution be presented to the recipient and the copy of it included in the permanent records of the State Board of Education. Witness our signatures this 20th day of September 2013 in Austin, Texas. Barbara Cargill, Chair, Mavis Knight, Secretary. So, anyway, we are just thrilled that you are the recipient of that award, most deserving.
So am I.
Okay, and be careful about carrying this Texas education bag just anywhere.
Okay.
You don't want everyone to see you. Thank you. Thank y'all for letting me do this.
Yeah, stand up. Mr. Andrus? Mr. Andrus, come back up.
What?
Come back up, sir.
It's been 22 years.
I know, sir. You're a hard man to recognize because you like to just do your work, and we appreciate that. Mr. Andrus, on behalf of the board, Ms. Hardy, thank you for coming down tonight. On behalf of the board, we can't thank you enough for all your work. We know how dedicated you are to Venture. You talk to any teacher over there, any student, they all know who you are. There's not enough any of us could ever do to recognize you. So on behalf of the board and the entire school district, I want to say thank you. The volunteer program that you inspire of others to volunteer and the volunteer work you've done makes a difference, and you know how many students' lives, and there's nothing more important than anything you've done. On behalf of the board, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Andrus, picture. And Mr. Andrus, I'm just warning you, you're going to be on the front of the website. So I'm just warning you, it'll be there. I told y'all he's a hard man to recognize. Perfect. We'll move on to item D. Introduce, Dr. Cavazos, introduce newly elected DIDC instructional decision-making committee members.
Thank you, President Hogg. And at this time, I'd like to ask Evan Smith to introduce our new DIDC members.
Thank you. President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, and members of the board. I would like to introduce our wonderful DIDC members. In the early 1990s, to comply with Education Code 11.251, the district established a district-level instructional decision-making committee to advise the board or its designees in establishing and reviewing the district's educational plans, goals, performance objectives, and major classroom and instructional programs, along with developing and approving the district-wide staff development plans. This district site-based decision-making body consists of teachers, of principals, of campus-based non-administrative professional staff members, of community members, parents, and district-level professional staff members. The committee has 6 regular meetings and called meetings as needed. And at this time, I'd like to introduce you to our newly elected committee members for this year. And before I do that, I just need to tell you that these people give selflessly of their time and bring great wisdom and guidance to this district. And so I'm going to ask them to stand one by one. They would rather not come up to the front, but I do want to make sure that we recognize them. They give hours and hours of their time to this important work. James Micah Green is not here this evening, but he is from Arlington High School and is a teacher there. Debbie Rutledge from Gunn Junior High. Janice Taylor from Key Elementary School. David McGarity from Bowie High School. Tammy Harkrider, from West Elementary School. Barbara Reed from Sherrod Elementary School. Sarah Spurrier from Martin High School. I don't see Sarah here. Christy Carroll from Ditto Elementary. Aaron Sproul from Ashworth Elementary. And then our at-large members, Beverly McReynolds from Venture. There, she's in Boundary. There you go. Laura Thurston from Owsley Junior High School. Teresa Taylor from Adams Elementary School. Mary Jane Bean from Arlington High School. And Julie Reichert from Wimbish. Did I miss anybody? And Felicia Battles, who is taking Michael Sonato's place, and she's our representative from Tarrant County College. So thank these people for the work that they do.
Thank you to the committee for all your hard work. We know, sometimes it goes unrecognized till someone has a complaint. Then they say, well, the DID said this. So we thank you for all your work and all your dedication to that. Next, we'll introduce, we'll have Dr. Cavazos for the No Child Left Behind Highly Qualified Teacher Compliance Report. Dr. C.
Thank you, President Hogg. And as part of our NCLB requirement, we provide a highly qualified teacher compliance report, and Michael Hill will provide that information to the board. Michael.
Okay, good evening, President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, and members of the board. As we stated, we do have to provide this report each year, and so I'll just get right into it. Highly qualified as the No Child Left Behind Act of 2001 requires that each local education agency publicly report the progress of the district and its campuses toward meeting the highly qualified status for teachers within the district. What that means is simply the NCLB requires that 100% of the teachers in the core areas are highly qualified. And what you see there are those core areas for English, reading, language arts, math, science, foreign language, civics, government, economics, art, history, and geography are those areas that we must be highly qualified in. Highly qualified indicates that a teacher holds a minimum of a bachelor's degree and has obtained Texas teacher certification, including appropriate special education certification, and has demonstrated subject matter competency in each of the academic subjects in which that teacher teaches. Highly qualified teacher reporting, we report that 100% of the teachers in the AISD are highly qualified, and that's what was reported for our district. 100% of the classes taught by highly qualified teachers, and 100% of the highly qualified teachers was reported from each one of our campuses. This is just a graph of over time where we are as a district as we compare to the state in both and in the areas of HQ teachers in high poverty schools, and the percent of HQ teachers. I'd like to point out that every year Arlington ISD has reported that we are 100% in compliance in those areas. We also recognize that in 2008, 2009, the NCLB also required that all teaching assistants on Title I campuses be highly qualified. And what that means is that those TAs are associate's degree, they hold an associate's degree or higher. They have completed at least 2 years of study at an institution of higher education, which equates to about 48 hours, or that they have demonstrated proficiency on a locally developed assessment. AISD exceeds this requirement in that all of our campuses, not only the Title I campuses, have highly qualified paraprofessionals. The AISD Personnel Department, again, we will continue to monitor the status of the core academic teachers and work with principals to ensure that all teachers are highly qualified upon hire and/or reassignment. The highly qualified teacher reports for AISD and individual campuses will be available to the district website and the TEA NCLB website as well. This time I'll entertain any questions if there are.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Any questions from colleagues? Mr. Hill, we love seeing those reports every year. We love knowing and being able to go out to our community and say every single teacher and paraprofessional is highly qualified. It's very important. Thank you for making sure we meet that standard every single year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Up next, and let everyone in the crowd know, we'll take a break in about 15 minutes. So I know I see people looking on their phones for the Baylor score, so it's okay. I'm recording it, so let's keep it down. Up next, we have Dr. Cavazos with the Fine Arts Report.
Thank you, President Hogg. And this evening, we'd like to take an opportunity to provide you with an update on the Fine Arts program and have a presentation on really the vision of the Fine Arts department and the performance expectations for fine arts. And so Jeremy Earnhardt is our new Fine Arts Director, and he is preparing. I'll stretch this a little bit, Jeremy, so you can get ready. And so he's preparing, he has a presentation regarding our Fine Arts program and the direction of our Fine Arts program. Jeremy.
President Hogg, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos, thank you for this opportunity to be with you tonight and present. And I'd like to indicate to Mark Murray that we're experiencing audio difficulties. Okay, well, bottom line, Fine Arts, we're here to support student success. The mission of a school district is academic achievement. We just believe that fine arts are a great tool or support to buttress that, especially when you look at the secondary fine arts, the opportunity for a group of adult stakeholders, which you witnessed here tonight, for recruitment out of the elementary grades through completion of grade 12 is a powerful thing. We all have seen this, and we believe that that goes right into here. Strong fine arts programs increase the bang for your educational buck. High potential student-teacher ratios, they're required for a completion in the middle grade, so how you organize that has a direct effect on the district's bottom line. Help increase attendance, graduation rates, and test scores. Okay, prove it. Students of the arts consistently outperform their non-arts peers by 11 to 13% on the Scholastic Aptitude Test. PEAMS data mined by TMEA demonstrates higher graduation rates consistently reported with a higher percentage of students enrolled in fine arts. And really there's been no time like the last decade in terms of research and literature which demonstrates the power of arts as it relates to education. And we'll just hear what Mr. Dan Pink thinks about that. But Mr. Mark Murray, we don't hear him.
I see a premium. Here we go.
Well, what he's talking about is seeing a premium on routines, right answers, and standardization. I can tell you everything that he's about to tell you. He's talking about supporting student success. He's seeing a premium on routines, right answers, and standardization at precisely the time the economy is no longer about those things. He's talking about that creativity is going to be the currency of the next economy and what we need to do for our kids to be able to provide them the opportunities to succeed in the global economy. So, locally, 100% of students will be actively involved in extracurricular and or co-curricular activities. I will share with you then when researching the school district, looking at the strategic vision for the future, this objective and a few of the others were kind of the teeter to the totter to say, I want in on this, okay? I think I can be of service and help. So, let's just check out how we're doing there. After a needs assessment of the district over the past few months, we really have taken a look at one area for improvement, and we'll get to that here shortly. Over the last 8 years, participation in band across Arlington ISD has decreased by 20 to 25%. It kind of happens slowly. We don't really see it, but we'll go ahead and take a look here at year-to-year enrollments in our secondary schools. And we say, well, maybe all fine arts are experiencing this. Well, really, when we take a look at the data, we find that choir and we find that orchestra have maintained participation, while it's been that participation in our band programs which has suffered. We just take a look at some competition data. This is from the TMEA all-region band. Our competing region includes Arlington, Mansfield, and Birdville, and we've got a little ways to go, but don't worry, we've got a plan. We're gonna get this fixed. Additionally, it's worth pointing out that we recently had our UIL region marching contest, and Trustee Barron was there. We spent a little bit of time. Thank you for your attendance there. we wound up with 4 of our 6 groups at a second division level for kind of the first time. So it's a little bit of a canary in the cave, and we've got a plan to get this thing fixed. Data suggests a change is needed, so it's a pipeline and a system, okay? So we just need to take a look at where the break in the pipeline is to assist our achievement. Let's have some discussions with key stakeholders, and we will investigate. Until the AISD shift in to grade 7, 8 junior highs in the late 90s, the year for beginning band was grade 7. We had a pilot program that began in the Bowie cluster in the early 2000s to move band into the 6th grade. And the 6th grade band finally reached the last of the Martin cluster in the mid-2000s. The original plan featured 45 minutes a day with 2 directors. Then came the PE minutes requirement. And then came the testing, and it just simply wasn't possible to do what it was that it was intended to be done. So the question comes, why is orchestra successful in the elementary when band is not? Orchestra, 4 instruments, each a larger version of themselves, similar pedagogy, and it's external. The teacher can see what the student is doing, the student can see what the teacher is doing, and the rising tide will lift all boats in terms of instruction. Band, 11 instrument groups, and right now we're asking a first-year teacher to walk in 22 minutes and have the students experience success, and it's just not working the way we'd like for it to. So, Mark Chandler, former Director of Fine Arts, an effort was made to equalize beginning instruction really with the middle school grade concept of grade 6. He states that the state-mandated PE minutes changed everything, and this is very important. It wasn't that anybody did anything wrong or that Arlington ISD was unsupportive. The structure just couldn't work. Same sentiments from Mr. Bill Huff, who is here with us tonight, and we'll take a look at another way. Just want to make sure that we're partnering with higher ed, and Doug Stoddard, Director of Bands at Arlington, is very supportive of this plan that we are about to suggest. And the recommendation is for a shift to a cluster teaming instructional model. We would move then instruction for beginning band to grade 7. We can model that after HEB ISD, our junior high brethren to the north that have always started in grade 7. And, you know, I think Prince had the song, "We're going to party like it's 1999. This would just be a return for us back to the way we were originally doing things. Okay, so 11 instrument groups. This is a key thing. No additional full-time equivalents or teachers would be needed to institute this plan. With current staff, we can push up into the junior highs and actually recapture a bunch of instructional time. Let's think about this. A elementary band director right now that is teaching on 4 different campuses is traveling for 3 periods. On a junior high campus, they could teach 6 of 7 or 7 of 8, increasing their instructional time by 50% or over 50%, touching students in ways in terms of instruction. Cluster teaming method increases the effectiveness of the beginning year instruction. We got a high bang for your buck, recapture of travel time, and we just want to say it one more time. This will cost no more to do, no additional FTEs required. Okay, what can 7th grade beginners do? I don't know if we're going to know this because I don't know if the sound works yet, but here we go. Okay, so this is after 3 months in beginning band. Bedford Junior High, 5 miles away. Here's by the spring. Okay, and the key correlate there is that targeted and intense team teaching at grade 7 to allow they're a little bigger, they're a little, well, I'd say smarter, but they're just probably not any more smart than they were in 6th grade. But we're able to get at them and do instruction in a way that's very effective. So cluster teaming, we've got the high school directors going down to the middle school and really targeting instruction. So 7th grade, students would begin with focus instruction specific to their instrument. All directors teach beginners. 8th grade, students would then be enrolled in brass woodwind classes. 9th grade, the junior high band director in this model would loop up. Is that the right? It's looping, yes. Would loop up. Thank you, Mr. Harmon. Dr. Harmon, sorry about that. Would loop up to teach at the 9th grade, and then 10 to 12, no change, essentially. Okay, bottom line, beginning band in 7th grade will help us to expand instructional access and achievement in our band programs. To be clear, this plan is not a cut. Every band director position in the district will remain reorganized across our 12 junior high campuses, giving each junior high student access to 2 full-time junior high band directors as well as team teaching from the middle school. So, in other words, AISD junior high band students may currently see 1 band director over the course of the week. With this proposed team teaching model with the high school directors, students can see up to 4 or 5 directors to provide targeted, individualized instruction. And we discussed this about the elementary director with a recapture of 50% of instructional time. So in sum, band in 6th grade just isn't working the way we'd like for it to work for our kiddos. This is just a presentation of the why with a solution provided. So the recommendation then therefore is to model best practice for successful beginning band instruction in like instrument team teaching, borrow from our junior high brethren to the north. So you would say then what is next steps? Observations with network head directors to exemplar programs to witness the beginning band model. And then a key component to this is a Q&A and best practice share out with our junior high principals and counselors with a team of principal junior high counselors from our UIL and TMEA competing districts, each of which begin instrumental instruction in like classes. So we're here to support student success. We think that this is a plan that can do that in a more efficient and effective way for our students. And song and verse, should I have the opportunity to see you again ever, this slide will appear every time. Strong fine arts programs increase the bang for your educational buck. High potential student-teacher ratios. In fact, the goal, Dr. Cavazos, you know, the goal here with this plan is to increase participation. We saw the numbers for our high school bands to 300 per campus. Every single, and here's the great news, President Hogg, we don't require no more staff for this, right? We can do it. Did I get that point home? I think so. We're going to help increase attendance, graduation rate, and test scores, and I'm telling you, when you have a critical mass of highly engaged students in those programs like that, it is a game changer in terms of climate on those secondary campuses. I know Dr. Harmon and I have had quite a few discussions about that. So you were supposed to hear the Jackson 5 at the beginning to lighten the mood, but you hear them at the end. Any questions?
Mr. Earnhardt, with that presentation, we're going to have you back weekly or monthly.
Can I get a rep from HR?
Hey, thank you. With that, let's open it up to questions from my colleagues. Mr. Hibbs.
I appreciate the enthusiasm and also getting through those slides in record time. A couple of things. My daughter tried to start a band in the 6th grade, and she chose the French horn, which is probably one of the most challenging instruments I understand. I have no musical talent whatsoever.
If you're not careful, that can sound like a baby elephant very fast.
Well, and with what you're talking about, the 20 minutes worth of instruction, she wasn't successful. And she, like many of her friends, dropped out in 6th grade because they just weren't successful. So this program, as it moves into 7th grade, will allow them or give them that daily experience with the instruments. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And, you know, let's be clear, this is a muscle memory activity, so it's that daily repetition. So what we're going to allow for a beginning instrumental band member then is a daily recitation at 45 minutes. So not only doubling the time for those students, but also getting back and being able to reteach that very next day.
Okay, and the second point I wanted to bring is that this is something that's being brought by the fine arts. It wasn't being brought by the administration or even this board to make this change. You're confident and comfortable in saying that that the rest of those individuals, each one of the band directors that are reporting up to you, this is something they're on board with?
Yeah, we have a few directors that are here tonight. One of them just went to halftime, so we have four,
that makes a difference.
Jeff Barge, I think, is the only one left that doesn't have a football game or other engagement here tonight. Mr. Barge?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. I'm the oldest band director left in town. I've been here longer than anybody else at 24 years. I will tell you that over these last few years when we've gone through the 6th grade band programs, it's evident, especially in our cluster, that we need to make a change. We need to make it immediately, if not sooner. So we are on board.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate the well-researched plan.
Thank you, Trustee Hibbs.
Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. Dr. Rush.
I appreciate the enthusiasm. I applaud the intuitiveness to target where our deficiency may be to move forward and strengthen our program. I greatly appreciate it. I'm curious, you mentioned modeling after HEB. Do typically other districts that are in the area that have a 7-8 type program like we do as junior highs have only starting at 7th, or are there other districts that start at 6th?
To the best of my knowledge, in the Metroplex, the only other district that has a 7-8 configuration is Mesquite, and they begin in grade 7 as well. As a rule, I think they have some pockets of different, but you know, generally the other junior high districts, triple B for UIL, like the C's are for middle school, and then the B's. So some of them out in West Texas, et cetera, still starting in grade 7. In fact, I imagine that our Chief Academic Officer Smith started your kiddos out in West Texas in 7th grade.
Great, great. And then modeling after HEB, in the slide that compared us to, as far as the number of kids going, was it to state?
To making the all region
The all
junior high band.
region. I know it was Birdville, Mansfield, but HEB wasn't listed in there. I was just curious why.
HEB, because they're a triple B configuration, have their own
Different
contest
group.
as a triple B.
Okay.
And I would be secretly in talks already with Mr. Mark Chandler to
It's not too secret now.
to make sure that our students have a venue for that competition.
Very good, very good. Well, thank you, and it's great that you're doing what you're doing, and that all the band directors are in support of this. I see this as a great win for our kids. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. Ms. Sullins.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Earnhardt, for your presentation. I'm always glad to hear about fine arts, but that you made that one very fine, and it's good news too. But I had a question about access. We talked about this briefly one day when I bumped into you on a campus, and this program we're building we have more students in it by nature will increase the access, but sometimes I talk to people in the community and maybe they're new or they don't have a background, or no one in the family has much of a background with fine arts, and they just don't know when to reach in, when to step in. What would be the outreach, and how do we improve access to these programs so all of our students can benefit?
You know, interesting that you said that, and I believe that you're going to have a consultant to speak with you later in the agenda in terms of capital needs. So we're actually looking out and visioning out 5 years from now as we expand these programs and making sure that we have the assets, as it were, the instruments to be able to provide instruction in terms of specifically here band instruments and orchestra instruments, as well as choirs, risers, and then all of the uniforms that go along with that. So I think that's all part of this capital needs steering committee, and we've certainly done our part to make sure that that's included. Dr. Cavazos' vision and leadership there has been fantastic. So then I say that to say this. I do believe it is important, especially at that grade 7 level, that we take a look at a way to ensure that the stakeholders in the community are aware that we provide instruments and allow participation regardless of a family's ability to afford. And that's a very important component, is that access. And we're in talks with Chief Academic Officer Smith and others to find ways to make sure that that message gets out into the community.
Thank you.
Thank you. Last question, Mr. Earnhardt. You know, I'm all for this. I think it's a good idea. And one thing I think we encourage is we're willing to try. Your light's not on, Mr. Barron. I'll let you speak right after this.
Oh, thank you, Raj. Well, now it's on.
Mr. Barron, you'll be up next. Mr. Earnhardt, we talk about, we encourage people, let's try programs. If they don't work, let's move back. And obviously it hadn't been working real well with going 6th grade. Is it going to take 3 years to get our band numbers up on this increase? Is that what we're waiting on, or are we going to have a little more immediate impact from doing this?
Okay. Most of us are working on some ideas to increase size of the band at the high school level immediately, from second chance band to growing the size of the color guard, that sort of thing. At Sam Houston, we also have a beginning band class that kids get a chance to basically is a second chance that Beverly McReynolds and I started way back when. And in addition to that, it will take time for those kids that hopefully are mandated in the 7th grade to take a fine arts of some sort and eventually move up into the grades as they get older and older, and then stay with the instrument because of the quality of instruction they got along the way.
So, in other words, our discussions about that have been exactly what you're talking about. Let's make sure and dress up the top while we fix the bottom, and in a few years we'll meet each other halfway. But this concept of second chance band, if you, for any reason, had to get out of band or chose to get out of band, we're going to, second semester, allow you back in the program, in fact, invite you back in the program. Over at Bowie Middle School, Bowie High School, Romaldo Solis has a chart on his office window that says 200. What's the plan next year to get to 200? They're at about 140 right now. So he figures with the number of students that he has going to be returning that are rising sophomores through seniors, plus his number is 20 for second chance band, plus 20 for color guard. We'll field the Bowie Volunteers at 200 on the field this very next fall.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Arnhart. We have a wonderful fine arts program here in the district, and our band numbers are a little concerning right now. They're low, and I think we all admit that, and we all see it. So anything we can do in the immediate, anything you need from us to assist in that, I think it's a focus we're pretty serious about involvement from students. So, Mr. Barron.
Thank you, President Hogg. Is the proposal concept plan to institute this next year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will the instruments, I gather, go from the 6th grade up to the 7th grade?
Yes, sir.
Can the junior high physical plant support that many students in band?
Yes, and that is part of the capital needs assessment that we're taking a look at. And in fact, I was in discussion just moments ago with Principal Hastings from Young. I said, well, we're probably going to need to make sure that we're creative moving forward with instituting this plan for next year, especially in terms of your specials team not having the same conference period, so that we open more spaces throughout the day to be able to team teach and break students out.
Because it seems to me that since we had the 9th graders in the junior highs a while back, that the plant ought to be big enough.
Yes, sir. I'm speaking...
Band hall, that sort of thing, no.
I think the band halls, yes. I think that this beginner model of splitting the kids out into individual classes, I'm sorry, is what I was referring to. So the answer to your question then shortly is yes.
See, that was easy. Thank you.
I would just add that Jeremy's plan is also to increase the number of band students at the junior high level. So as we're not looking just as current numbers, but as an increase in participation.
I would like to mention, if it's okay for everybody out there in TV land, that the plan is for an increase in participation across the board in fine arts. This presentation obviously specific to band because we're looking at a program change to facilitate that. Choir has always begun in 7th grade, and orchestra has always begun in 5th grade, and there is no plan to change what is not broken.
Thank you, Mr. Earnhardt, and thank you for involving the community, all the band instructors, and all of our schools in these fine arts. They're major decisions that have to be made, and I look forward to seeing this decision go in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Up next, Dr. Grassos, consider administrative appointments. Do we have a motion to approve the administrative appointments as discussed in executive session?
I make a motion that we approve the recommendations.
Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Hibbs, a second by Dr. Reich. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present. Ms. Payne, you couldn't be here this evening. 6 trustees voted in the affirmative. Dr. Kvassos, please introduce our appointment.
Thank you, President Hogg. It's my pleasure to present to you the new assistant principal for West Elementary School, Ms. Stacy Lambot. Stacy obtained her Bachelor of Science from Texas Tech University and her Master of Education in Curriculum and Instruction from UT Arlington. Stacy most recently is a first grade teacher at Ditto Elementary and has been an instructional facilitator, RTI facilitator at Rockmore, has taught first grade at Ashworth, first grade at Johns Elementary. Stacy, congratulations. Anything you'd like to say, anyone you'd like to introduce?
Thank you. Yes, I would. President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board, I'd like to thank you and Dr. Turner and Dr. Wirtz for this opportunity to support the West faculty and families as we try to go forward as a community striving to provide strong educational successes for kids. I'm looking forward to being the assistant principal there, and I want to recognize all the wonderful teachers and educators that I have become very close friends with and have stretched me and made me a better educator in this district. Many of them have come out to support me tonight, and I appreciate that. I especially want to thank Judy Linderman, who I worked for 11 years, who grew me as a teacher and a leader, who seared in my heart, soul, and mind kids first, and who has made me the educator that I am today. I want to thank my family and friends who have always supported me, especially when I keep saying I'm going back to school, getting more education. But most of all, I want to thank my son, Nicholas. He's here with me tonight, and he's always been my only child, but he's always shared me with my other 22. All my time and my energy, my finances, and the number just got bigger. Thank you.
Very nicely said, Stacy, and as the son of two teachers, Nicholas, you'll appreciate it eventually. They pay off. As ours a custom, Stacy, if you would, please follow Mr. Hill out into the lobby. We'd like to have a receiving line so he just can meet you and congratulate you personally. If you would, please let the board goes first so we can get back in here at a reasonable hour tonight. I would ask us to be back right around 8:10 to 8:15. Thank you. Now call this meeting back to order at 8:17 p.m. Up next is our public hearings. School First State Finance Accountability Rating. We will open our public hearing on Schools First State Finance Accountability Rating. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg. At this time, I'd like to ask Tony Drollinger to give us our Schools First report. Mr. Drollinger.
President Hogg, board members, Dr. Cavazos, good evening. Schools First is the system used by the Texas Education Agency to rate the overall effectiveness of school district financial management. It's an acronym that stands for the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. This is the 10th year that TEA has had assigned ratings through Schools First. I'm pleased to announce that Arlington ISD's rating for 2013 is Superior Achievement, which is the same rating we've received every year since the system started. There are 20 indicators to evaluate the quality of school district financial management. Some of the indicators are presented here. These ratings are based on staff, student, and financial data submitted to TEA through PEAMS for the 2011-2012 school year and fiscal year. Based on their score on the 20 indicators, school districts can receive one of 5 different ratings, as you see here. If a school district receives a substandard or a suspended data quality rating, they have to file a plan with TEA. Now, school districts are required to issue a financial management report, which includes the Schools First evaluation from TEA for the current year. It includes last year's results on all of the indicators. It also discloses certain transactions involving the board and superintendent. School districts are also required to hold a public hearing to give individuals the opportunity to comment on the report. Tonight, the AISD's reports are available outside the boardroom. They are available online, and also if they will contact the business office, we'd be pleased to provide a copy. And all school districts' ratings are available on TEA's website. Tonight's meeting does satisfy the requirements for a public hearing on our school's first rating. At this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have, and it would be appropriate to invite public comment.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Ollinger. Any questions from trustees? Dr. Rush.
Just a comment. Does excellence ever get boring?
We strive always to continue that.
Thank you for what you all do. It's so pleasing to hear this year in and year out. And once again, thank you for all the work you guys do in keeping us up to par.
Thank you.
Well said, Dr. Rush. I show no cards. Ms. Jones, do we have any other cards that I'm not seeing? Perfect, thank you. Since we have no cards from the audience, the public hearing on Schools First State Finance Accountability Rating is now closed. Thank you, Mr. Ollinger. Up next, we'll tackle public hearing item B, consider school improvement. We'll open our public hearing on school improvement plans for Ellis, Spear, and Thornton Elementary. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg. And at this time, we'd like to present the improvement plans for Ellis, Spear, and Thornton Elementary Schools as required by TEA for this process. So Evan Smith will introduce this and invite our principals at some point to present their plans.
President Hogg, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos. Tonight we will go through a public hearing for 3 of our campuses as required by TEA. The campuses are Ellis Elementary, Spear Elementary, and Thornton Elementary. We will cover achievement standards, sanctions, identified areas of improvement, plan for improvement, and receive public comment or input into the school improvement planning process. Under the standards and sanctions, the standards for meeting standards, have changed this year. We have indexes, Index 1, Index 2, and Index 3. The meeting standard index you must have for Standard 1 is over 50%, Standard 2 over 30%, and closing the performance gaps over 55%. If you do not meet those, then you are in the improvement required stage, which is where these campuses reside right at this moment. So sanctions for year 1, each campus is required to create a campus improvement team. They are to conduct a needs assessment, and they are to conduct a focused data analysis. In addition, they create a school improvement plan. They hold a public hearing for board approval of their SIP, and they also submit progress reports to TEA. If they do not receive meeting standard goals as next year, then the following year, in year 2, they have to continue the CIT, they develop a reconstitution plan, and they implement the plan the following year. If they do not meet standards the 3rd year, they continue the CIT, implement the reconstitution plan, and then they have a hearing before the commissioner. Year 4, continue the CIT, hearing before the commissioner, and then there's additional sanctions. And then the 5th year, the campus becomes under alternative management or the campus is closed. I'm going to go quickly over the data for Ellis, and then each of the principals will come to the podium and give you their plans. The accountability rating for 2013 was not met by Ellis in the level 3, in the index number 3, which is the performance data. Closing the performance gap, they received 51 out of 55. And the system safeguards, you can see here where the student groups were that did not meet the requirements, and they were under the African American, the economically disadvantaged, the special ed, and the ELL students, and then 1 under the special ed in the participation rate. Spear, again, in the closing performance data, and they are at 51 out of 55. Again, in the index number 3, and they have areas in all students, African American, Hispanic, economically disadvantaged, and ELL. And finally, Thornton, again in closing the performance gaps, and they are at 50 out of 55. In Index 3, and with the all students, the African American, the Hispanic, the economically disadvantaged, the special ed, and the ELL. Before we go to each of the campuses, I would like to say a couple things and some thanks to a lot of people. I've been on these campuses and I see great things going on. They are working very hard to identify the needs, and they are building wonderful plans to ensure that this does not happen for a second year. In addition, we've had a great deal of work by Dr. Melissa Hobrook, by Sharon Jensen, and by Judy Linderman. And this is something that we take very seriously, but I think we have good leaders at each of these campuses, and they will present their plans to you. And I would like to start with Dr. Kathy Link from Ellis Elementary.
President Hogg, Dr. Cavassos, members of the board, I am Kathy Link, here to present to you Ellis's campus plan. Where did the clicker go? Sorry, I had a clicker last time I did this.
There you go.
All right, goal 1, this is for Index 3, is to increase Index 3 by closing the performance gaps from 51 to 55%. Our economically disadvantaged group is one of the groups that we need to close the performance gaps for. These are our 3 subjects that we had difficulty with: math, science, and writing, our current performance, and our passing goal at 55%. Also, our group that we need to close performance gaps also is African American students. Again, math, science, and writing, our percent passing, and then a passing goal of 55%. The way these 2 groups are chosen in Index 3, all economically disadvantaged children looked at, and then they look at your largest subgroup population. That's where African American was picked from. We met as a campus leadership team 3 different times. We talked about what we thought were our barriers to improving instruction. We worked together and came up with our 3 biggest needs. The first one was need for collaboration. The second one was maintain fidelity to campus initiatives and use of best practices and strategies. Our need for collaboration. Our teachers are already involved in PLCs, professional learning communities, and they're going pretty well. Right now, our goal is to have an administrator or a team leader lead the meeting. The reason that's underlined is we plan to progress in that to have team leaders and then teachers be able to lead the meeting effectively. We want to use consistent agendas, take notes, make sure that we're all on the same page. We're going to focus on the recent assessment data and intervention ideas so we can drive instruction to improve our teaching. Fidelity Campus Initiatives, there's many great things going on at Ellis. We thought we should narrow that down to a focus on a few initiatives. So the team decided that one of the things we needed to do was to pick a few initiatives and then make sure that we monitor the fidelity to the campus initiatives. And that means that we will provide staff development and make sure that the initiatives are understood and then go into the classroom and verify that they're being effective at that. One of our initiatives is the Regie Routman model of effective teaching and reading and writing in diverse classrooms, and that's primarily to engage the children in writing for a purpose and an audience, which we hope will increase our writing scores. The second one is effective teaching of, explicit vocabulary routine. And with our explicit vocabulary routine, we're going to first implement that in science and then move to math as well, because those are the areas that we're finding difficulty with some of the academic vocabulary. For the Regie Routman model of effective teaching, we want to eventually progress to have the students write authentically each day and also in classes other than writing class. Use of best practices and strategies. Our leadership will develop, provide staff development, and help teachers implement 2 new best practices and strategies. Our goal for that is 90% of our economically disadvantaged African American students will pass each common assessment in math, science, and writing. We're beginning the first benchmark with 60, moving to 70, moving to 90. And to do that, we are going to help the teachers, 100% of the math teachers, implement number talks, and each student will participate 3 times a week. We will work that up through the end of the year to 5 days a week. 100% of all students grades 3 through 6 will participate in iStation each week. iStation is a web-based program that does a lot with reading, which we're finding is affecting our science, writing, and math scores. It will put the students on the correct level, will help reteach, and then presents small group instruction model plans for the teacher so she can pull and work with the students in small groups. We're starting out with doing that each week. We'll increase that, and then the students that are still having difficulty will then participate in before or after school with iStation with bus service provided. Also, 100% of all students not passing a common assessment will participate in explicit small group instruction during the school day, which again, if that is not quite enough, we'll move to before or after school with transportation provided. And what explicit small group instruction means is it's objective-led for a specific objective with a specific group of students not meeting that objective. Goal 2, that's our system safeguards. As you saw in the previous data, we want to increase that from 24 to 35. Our system safeguards are economically disadvantaged students as before, and as you notice here, the passing goal is 50% rather than the 55 that was in the closing performance gaps. The reason of that is we're being more rigorous with our subgroups to give them the extra push to close that performance gap. So that's why you're seeing a 50% here. Also, our African American students, our special education students, our English language learners, our need for goal 2, that is our system safeguards, is explicit small group instruction for English language learners, economic disadvantaged students, African American special ed. For our explicit small group instruction, our leadership team will provide staff development and help teachers implement effective small group instruction, number talks, and iStation to increase student learning. 80% of all special education students and English language learners will pass each common assessment in math and in reading. 100% of the ELL and special ed students will not passing a common assessment will participate in explicit small group instruction at least 3 times during the school day, and again that moves to more during the school day if that seems to be more effective, and also before and after school with transportation provided. Now I'd like to introduce Spear Elementary Principal.
At this time, I'd like Ms. Selena Bastidas to come up, and she will present the school improvement plan for Spear Elementary School.
Okay, good evening, President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, and members of the board. I'm going to explain Spear's plan. Okay, the way we came up with our plans is similar to the way Ellis did. We got our campus-based leadership team together, and we came up with all the reasons why we didn't meet the expectations, and then we narrowed it down to our 3 top needs that we would focus in on. Goal 1 is to increase African American and economically disadvantaged scores in all subjects to 55%. The strategies that we want to focus in on are increase explicit instruction, and also students will write across the curriculum. The interventions that we will provide are professional development for teaching vocabulary instruction. TLI, through the TLI grant, we've gone through several staff developments with them, and they've also come out to campus. And we are implementing a 6-step strategy for vocabulary instruction in all subject areas. Examination of student work in PLC conversations. Teach a TAPL strategy, and that's a quick check for understanding strategy throughout the lessons. A book study, explicit instruction by Anita Archer. The third and 6th week of the 6 weeks, we will use common assessments to gauge student acquisition of curriculum. Teachers meet every 10 days in a PLC capacity to analyze assessments, share best instructional practices, and plan instruction. And we've kind of worked that into our day, so the last period of the day, each grade level meets, and we talk about 4 areas: staff development, students, program development, and any administrative questions that they have. Okay. Goal 2 is to increase the number of system safeguards met from 12 to 18. And our area is in writing, it's all students, African American, Hispanic, English language learners, and special education. You get that to 50%. And then in special education, math and reading, from 37 to 50% and 42 to 50%. The strategy that we'll use is teachers will implement engagement strategies daily, providing multiple opportunities in a variety of ways. Create a menu. The interventions we'll use is to create a menu of student engagement strategies for teachers. We've been working on this in professional development as well as our PLCs. And these are just, we want them to have a quick reference as they're doing their lesson planning to focus in on the top engagement strategies for our students. Instructional coaches will also model lessons emphasizing student engagement. We'll give another resource book, which is Teach Like a Champion by Doug Lamont. We will use Kagan strategies for, and have a professional development on that. And the Kagan strategies give lots of ways for student engagement in all areas and throughout the subjects. And then we will incorporate student surveys. Obviously, the surveys have been very powerful with teachers and parents, and we want to bring that down to the student level. Okay.
Thank you. At this time, I would like for Ms. Alicia Keys to come, excuse me, Alicia Rodriguez.
Wow.
To come up to, there you go, to come up to present Thornton Elementary.
You don't want to hear me sing. President Hogg, members of the board, and Dr. Cavazos, thank you for the opportunity to present our Thornton Elementary SIP, School Improvement Plan. For goal number one addresses Index 3, and for Index 3, we are required to have a 55, and of course, Thornton was at 50, and Index 3 is for closing the performance gap. Specifically, we're going to be looking at our African American subgroup and our economically disadvantaged group. We're looking at the economically disadvantaged group right here with writing being at 44, science at 46, and math at 49. And our target goal, of course, is 55. For our African American subgroup, I want to point out that for math and reading is what Index 3 we are rated for because we meet our minimum subgroup number of 25. However, we did include writing and science because we want to focus on that particular subgroup for all content areas. But for Index 3 in Goal 1, 34% and 41 for math and reading, Index 3 only qualifies under math and reading. Before I go over the strategies, I want to share that similar to the process that was used by Ellis Elementary and Spear Elementary, we met as a CLT. We looked at causal factors and we dug into the data to figure out what our needs were. And one of the strategies you'll notice here is for looking at environment. So staff will focus on importance of building relationships with students and parents. The interventions that we came up with were positive communication with parents twice a week by phone call and a note home, mentoring by the teachers or the Arlington Police Department with whom we have a partnership with for identify students at least once a week. One student from each classroom will be selected as Student of the Week, and one student from school will be selected for Student of the Month. And we kind of got that idea from this board and what you all are doing for the high schools. Student participation in art club, ballet folklorico, step team, and student council, because we realize that involvement in extracurricular activities is very important and impacts environment. Strategy number 2 continues to address our environment. Staff will focus on importance of building better awareness of cultural diversity. Interventions invite speakers to talk about African American culture, cultural diversity in general, and or tolerance. The staff and students and families will participate in a multicultural event in December, one which we have never had, so this will be something new. Staff will participate in 2 book studies. The first one, Understanding the Black Male Learning Styles, and Boys Hear Our Cry. Staff will complete a teacher perception survey to determine individual biases and self-awareness. Staff, students, and families will participate in the campus Black History events in February. Once again, this is an event that will be new to us. Staff will participate in staff development to increase awareness of cultural diversity, to include group discussions and the use of teaching tolerance articles. It's a magazine. And the staff will complete a post-staff development survey self-reflection. Goal number 2 addresses index number 1 and the safeguards. So that's why you see that 50%, and we are going to increase percentage of student groups passing to 50%. So you're going to look at some of the subgroups that we didn't look at for index 3, such as special education, with reading at 48, science at 18, and math at 48. I want to also point out that in this group here, science did not meet as a safeguard because we didn't have sufficient number of students. However, given the low percentage, we wanted to include it here. But as a safeguard, reading at 48 and math 48 is what counts for us. And we need to be at 50%. Another subgroup, English language learners, writing at 39%, science at 41%, and math at 48%, and we need to get to 50%. Our Hispanic group, for writing at 43% and science at 45%, and we need to get to the 50%. And so our first 2 strategies dealt with the environment, and this one here is on student engagement. And so we will focus on increasing student engagement and learning in the classroom. And the interventions, teachers will attend Kagan Cooperative Learning Strategies training and share the lessons and our success with that on our online PLC. Students will write daily across the curriculum. Teachers will deliver vocabulary lessons using the vocabulary instruction strategies that were provided by our district. Grade level PLCs will take place every other week to focus on engaging students and addressing interventions and extensions for our students. I want to point out that PLC started for our campus since last year, but this year we have taken it to a much higher level of discussion and collaboration. Our teachers meet every week for bi-weekly collaboration, or the other bi-week for PLCs, and we focus on the 4 critical questions of being a PLC, and that's how we stick to our agenda. And we have had good conversations and discussions and collaboration. And we started that since the beginning of this year, a bit more focused. Teachers will pair up at least once with another staff member to conduct what we call a learning walk and reflect on engagement strategies. So it's similar to coaching. It is non-evaluative, and it's actually teachers going to see each other and provide each other feedback. Students will be provided incentives and recognition for their progress on their common assessments. So common assessments is another strategy, but also celebration. So we wanted to include incentives and recognition for our students.
So as you consider these, we ask that you please approve these plans with the option for the campus leadership team to modify, add, and/or delete interventions based on their assessment data as it comes in so that they can meet the needs and the goals that they have set forth.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank
You're
you, Ms.
welcome.
Smith.
Questions?
Any questions from colleagues? Dr. Rush.
I'm just curious, with all of these plans, action items, interventions, are they, I was looking for the campus improvement plans. I would assume that these are all part of the campus improvement plan as well, so it's not yet more burdensome as far as metrics to hit and things, or is it different?
I'll let Kathy, Dr. Link, come and speak to that.
It's part of our campus plan. The district campus plan had a number of goals that we were required to have, and this became part of that. So if you look at this plan and at our regular district campus plan, you should see the similarities. Now, the district campus plan has more items in it because we're addressing more needs and more goals, but this is, yes, part of it.
Right, okay, thank you. And one more question. The percentage increases are lofty in several areas, and I have no doubt that with support and the diligence at each campus that you can probably hit those targets. What are the ramifications if those targets aren't met as far as from the state?
Those were shared earlier, that they would continue and then work through the sanctions again next year at the next level.
Okay, all right. And just for clarity, you're all pretty new at those campuses, correct?
I think they are pretty new.
Okay.
Ms. Rodriguez is,
Fourth year, okay.
Ms. Keys Rodriguez has been there for years.
Very good. All right, well, good luck, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Reich. Mr. Pompa.
Thank you, President Hogg. Ms. Smith, do the requirements go up each year? So they're going to go above 55. Next year it'll be.
They're
higher than
moving
that.
up, and they have incrementally, yes.
So as we make improvements, the targets also keep going up. Sure.
And we know that, so obviously with our campus improvement plan, we are stretching even more lofty. I know our campus is hitting for 70% in this area because we don't want to get to that state standard and come right back and do the same thing again. So we are hitting high, and we do have those lofty goals.
And while you're up here, let me ask you this question then. How does the student mobility affect the ability to hit these marks? Because I know that to a great degree, the students that you begin the year with are not the same students that are there at the end of the year when, or at least at test time.
And that's something that we're keeping really good track of through data dashboards. And what we've done is set up a system to where we get a new student in, we're right away testing that student, getting a baseline for that student, and getting them right into a group right away. But mobility, I think for all three of the schools, we're at 28 to 29%. So yes, it is very difficult and challenging at times, but I think the quicker we get the baseline on the students, the quicker we can do interventions on them.
Ms. Smith, I wonder if we just, and this may be a question for Wally, if we are able to separate that performance and see the performance difference between students that were there the entire year and the students that were there, not the entire year?
Well, I've done mine.
How does it look?
It's very eye-opening because obviously that you could see that is the area that hits us the hardest. And I can email it to you if you'd like, but I have it done.
I would love for you to do that, please.
I have it done.
If you would email it to
everybody,
the board,
I would do that.
That'd be great.
I did.
It's good information for us to have. You can send it to Ms. Jones, and she'll send it to the whole board.
And I will tell you, I was kind of. I was very heartbroken because I know how hard my staff has worked in trying to meet the standards, and I know this year, I have no doubt in my mind that we will. But when we did disaggregate our data and really go through it at the beginning of the year, we saw that difference, and we took out our kids that were our kids from the beginning of the year, and then the kids that moved in. So we really manipulated our data in all kinds of different ways, so that way we can have a better understanding and a better hold of what our plan of action will be.
And I really appreciate the involvement of the parents and the dedication to understanding how different groups of students learn, from the Hispanic group to the African Americans and all that, because you have to take that into account as you're teaching them. They learn a little bit different, especially with the mobility that you have.
Yes.
And so it's not easy. It makes for a lot more work for you guys, but I think that sets you up for much more likely success, which is obviously what we all want and need. And please don't hesitate to come to us for any support that you may need from the board to make sure that we give you the resources that you need to be successful. Because frankly, and I've shared this with Dr. Cavazos, that we cannot assume that the same resources that we need in Southwest Arlington are the same resources that are sufficient for the challenging demographics and the mobility issues that you guys face up in that area. And so, again, don't hesitate. I know that our area superintendents are there for your support, and they communicate with us and with our administration. But if you guys don't feel like you're receiving all the resources that you need, then come to us, and especially if you have some ideas outside the box of, okay, well, this is something different. It's a different type of issue, and if we keep doing the same thing over and over, we're not going to succeed. And so make sure that you're aware we're here to support you. We want you to succeed, and we'll give you whatever resources you need.
Okay, we appreciate that. And we have a couple of Christmas lists to our area superintendent ready. So we have some good ideas.
Mr. Hibbs likes to dress up as Santa Claus, so give him your
Yay!
Christmas list.
Okay,
Thank you.
Ms. Solons.
Thank you, President Hogg. A comment and also a question. Just by happenstance, I happen to live right by Ellis Elementary. I wish I lived right across the street from all your schools, so I would hear from the parents and teachers and just the vibe of the community. But I just want to pass along that one of the reasons that I'm very encouraged and excited about these plans is, what a difference. I'm hearing such excitement and engagement from parents, students, faculty, and so I believe that when you add a great plan with a great focus and great energy, it's going to produce good results. So I wanted to pass that along, and like I said, I'm sure that's probably the same for all of you. I just happened to be there. But I did have one question. Dr. Evans, is there any type of leading indicators that we may know what we're looking like in just this first 10 weeks of school, or attendance rates, anything that we can know how these plans are already, because I can feel the engagement in my neighborhood.
Well, and they may want to add to what I'm fixing to say, but on every single one of their campuses, I had the pleasure of deeply looking at one of their data rooms. I think that they have each taken data to a different level than they have before. Am I correct? As they all nod in affirmation. They are putting safety nets in place for each of these kids, and they are monitoring them on a daily basis. And as they get their results from their campus-based assessments and from the district benchmarks as well, they will be monitoring each one of those students and each one of those groups of students so that they can ensure the success, so that they're making changes in the instructional scene, so that they are meeting the needs that are shown by the data that's coming back to them each and every time they get some data. And I think what you'll also see is that their attendance rates are going up as well, and that their campus cultures are very much meeting the needs of those students as we go through this year.
Mr. Pompa, I would second what you said also about that. Sometimes the resources are different. Sometimes they're just different temporarily. And so I would share your view, Mr. Pompa, that sometimes we need to make adjustments, and certainly willing to do that. But I want to thank you. I want to thank each one of the principals for the time and care you've put into your campus improvement plans and into these plans. When the plans come to us, I assure you we read them with great care and great interest, and as I read them this year, they were just a whole different cut, and I was so encouraged and appreciative of your thought leadership, but I'm so excited for the students that you serve. Thank you.
Mr. Hibbs.
I'd like to concur with both Mr. Pompa and Ms. Sullins. You guys have a daunting task. You're on a very challenging campuses with a number of different issues, some brand new, some have been with our district for many years and then come back and just to help out. So from that standpoint, we appreciate that. And you're under the gun. And so, you know, we really want to make sure that you know that you have our full support, as I know that you have Dr. Cavazos and Ms. Smith. Mr. Pompa hit on a point when he was asking about the issue with the transient population that we have on some campuses. And Mr. Pompa, one thing that Ms. Sullins and I did is we met with Dr. Wirtz and Dr. Holbrook, and they have a very good plan about immediately addressing these new students as they come onto a campus within 2 days, 3 days at tops, and evaluating these students. Dr. Cavazos, with the newness of our area superintendents, I think it would be a good thing for all three of our area superintendents to come and at some point make a presentation to us about some of these procedures that they put in place. I think the board would be quite impressed about the direction that we're doing.
Yes, sir. They're scheduled to present in December.
There you go.
There you go.
That's power, Mr. Rose. That's power. It is impactful. My wife's a 5th grade teacher, and she has got a student yesterday that is now in their 4th school in 6 weeks. That's tough. It's tough.
Well,
so,
and everybody works together as that team on these campuses.
Yeah, without a doubt. Any way the district can do it, whether it's offering to allow those students to stay at their current schools, any of those plans, I think you hear Ms. Shibbs talked about, and with the ideas of our areas, we're open for those ideas because we know what a highly transient student can do to schools, also what it does to that student, plain and simple, where we're trying to put the focus. So take that in consideration. With that, we have open hearing. I don't show any cards. Ms. Jones, any cards? Perfect. We have no comments from the audience. No further questions from trustees or comments. The public hearing on school improvement plans for Ellis Elementary, Spear Elementary, and Thornton Elementary is now closed. Thank you. Next, we have open forum for agenda items. We don't have any cards this evening for open forum. We have 2 cards in this audience for non-agenda, which we'll cover later. Next, we go into action item A. Dr. Cavazos, consider approval fiscal year 2012-13 independent audit.
Thank you, President Hogg, and I think the board committee heard a presentation about the independent audit for 2012-2013. This time, we'd like to invite our external auditors to make a presentation.
Very happy to be here this evening. My name is Chuck Yapel. I'm the engagement partner this evening on Arlington ISD's annual financial and compliance audit. To reiterate what we've covered in meetings with staff and audit committee and board members generally, we have completed the audit for fiscal 2012-13. As a result of that audit, we have an unmodified, or what we now consider a clean opinion on the financial statements. We also have an unmodified or clean opinion on compliance with major federal programs under federal guidelines. And I would like to congratulate the board, certainly the staff. But when it comes to audits like we are now doing, they're very thorough. I would like to congratulate the entire staff of the district for their attention to details associated with federal program guidelines, state program guidelines, and generally in conducting the business of the district in an appropriate manner. That said, I'd be happy to take any questions or concerns related to the audit or the audit process.
Perfect. Thank you, Chuck. And we always like seeing your face when you have good news for us. So,
well, check out my mo.
Movember.
It's not coming in as strong as it has in the past, but I think that's due to age.
It's because you're working so hard, Mr.
I guess
Hibbs.
so.
That's it also. Mr. Hibbs.
President Hogg, as chair of the audit committee, I want to thank Whitley Penn for coming in, meeting with us on the different occasions that we have. We've seen you a lot in the course of the last year because we've had the change in our calendar year, so it had you back immediately when you left this last
That's true.
year. So
that's true.
We appreciate that, and our staff has responded that your organization has been outstanding to work with, and you're the guys that are supposed to find all the problems. So that means that there was a good working relationship there. I also want to echo some of the things that you had said about our staff, and I think it's important that our community understands that we've got the best and brightest here in Arlington that is working and maintaining the financial stability of our district. It's led obviously by Cindy Powell. Cindy Powell was recognized this year at the Legacy of Outstanding Women. Tony Drollinger last year was awarded with some big accounting award, and then we also have we lost.
We're excited as
individual.
accountants.
Yeah, we lost an individual midstream this year. They went to the private sector, and Natasha came in and has just done remarkably well in that situation. So I'd like, from a board standpoint, to give our accommodations. Thank you for allowing this external audit to go so well. It was mentioned that we rank right up there with some of the best in the country, not just the state. So from that standpoint, we appreciate you spending your evening with us. I know you want to get back down to Houston.
Well, I'll be staying here this evening.
Okay,
so
well.
I'm excited about it.
You can enjoy the rest of the meeting with us then. So.
Maybe I'll click in.
There you go. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you and thank you for your report.
Thank you so much. I would say that we do appreciate all the help and assistance we get from certainly the finance staff and the cooperation, and we certainly appreciate our professional relationship with Arlington ISD, the board, and all members of staff.
Thank you, Mr. April. You're not done just yet. We do need to vote on this.
That's true.
At this time, that's an important part of what we're doing right here. So at this time, I would take a motion. Do we have a motion from committee?
The committee recommends that we accept the report by Whitley Penn.
Thank you. We have a motion from committee requiring no second. At this time, any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees voted affirmative. We have approved the independent audit. Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Thank you so much.
Up next, Dr. Gvassos, we have the considered 2013-14 district and campus improvement plans that we discussed at the last work session. Dr. C.
Thank you, President Hogg, and our district and campus improvement plans are up for approval tonight, or recommendation to be approved. We have discussed this in the past in the work session and have provided that information in the past, so we recommend approval.
Perfect. At this time, open up to trustees. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve, please.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Reich and a second by Ms. Sullins. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees vote in the affirmative. Motion passes. Next, we'll consider school improvement plans for Ellis Elementary, Spear Elementary, and Thornton Elementary that we have discussed in work sessions and passed. At this time, we'll take a motion.
Move to approve the campus improvement plans for Ellis Elementary, Spear Elementary, and Thornton Elementary.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Sullins, a second by Dr. Reich. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees voting in the affirmative. Motion passes. Up next, we'll consider the resolution to cast votes for Tarrant Appraisal District Board of Trustees. This is something each year we're allowed to vote, appoint someone to represent the AISD Board of Trustees on the Tarrant Appraisal District. I must take a minute of personal privilege and Thank our former trustee and former representative that's been on this, Mr. Glaspie, former trustee for many years, now a current city council member, served us for 4 years, I think, approximately, to serve on this committee. He did a wonderful job taking up from Mr. Patterson before and couldn't have done a better job. And I thank him for all his work and hard work on this, because it's one of those, I wouldn't say a glamorous position, but it's a very, very important position of what the appraisal district's doing for our property values here in the district. So there couldn't be anything more important. At this time, I would like to look for a motion to approve our new nominee.
President Hogg, with great pleasure, I would like to move that the Board of Trustees cast all 437 votes to which it is entitled for election of Tarrant County Appraisal District Board of Directors for Michael P. O'Donnell.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Sullins and a second by Mr. Hibbs. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees voted in the affirmative. Mr. O'Donnell, if you wouldn't mind, would you like to come up here and say a few words real quick? This doesn't guarantee that you'll be on the Tarrant Appraisal District, but seeing as 457 votes is enough to get you on, I think it's a pretty good shot. So, because we are such a large taxing entity in Tarrant Appraisal District, our number of votes do guarantee us our nominee to be on the board. So, Mr. O'Donnell, I'd like to, you know everyone up here, but see if you have any few words.
President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, thank you very much. All board members, I'm humbled and honored to accept this opportunity to serve the students of Arlington. The last time I believe I was down here in this position, we were rewriting boundaries on the Futures 2010 Boundary Committee. So I was up there for several years, and so it's great to be here, and I appreciate the trust and faith that you have placed in me this evening, and I will look to serve you well. So again, I appreciate the honor, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. You served this district before you were a trustee. You served it as a trustee. Now you're serving it after you're a trustee. So we thank you for your service to the AISD.
Thank you, President Hogg. Thank you, board members. Dr.
Perfect. Next, we'll consider action. Yeah. I'm having a hard time tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Consider action item E. Consider taking legal action concerning oil and gas leases with Chesapeake and Total. At this time, do we have a motion from the board?
Why, I do. President Hogg, on action item E, consider taking legal action concerning oil and gas leases with Chesapeake and Total. I move to authorize taking legal action against Chesapeake and Total as discussed in closed session.
We have a motion by Mr. Hibbs. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Hibbs and a second by Ms. Sullins. Any discussion from trustees? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees in the voting in the affirmative. Next, we can consider action item F, consider extension of superintendent term contract. Do we have a motion? Mr. Barron.
It is with great honor and humility. I move to approve a contract extension for Dr. Cavazos and the issuance of a new 3-year term contract through December 31st of 2016, as discussed in closed session.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Barron and a second by Mr. Pompa. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. Six trustees present, 6 trustees voting in the affirmative. Dr. Cavazos, we got you at least for another year. Thank you. Dr. Cavazos, on behalf of the board, thank you for all the hard work you put in. An insightful and visionary leader. We appreciate it, and the students of the AISD appreciate it. Next, we'll go on to discussion action item A, consider the proposed boundary changes for Barry, Blanton, Crow, Knox, Rankin, Rourke, and Thornton Elementary. Schools relieved by the classroom additions at Blanton, Rankin, and Knox Elementaries. Dr. C.
Thank you, President Hogg. And at this time, we'd like to present the boundary proposal, and Mr. Hill has led a committee that has looked at the boundaries and the as a result of the additions, and he has his final report for consideration. Mr. Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos and President Hogg and the board. Again, we are here again to obtain approval of the proposed boundaries that we've had discussion on. And before we get started, I'd like to take an opportunity, if you will, to recognize the committee members that have worked with us so very hard. We had about 5 or 6 meetings together with community and staff members. And so at this time, if you're here, I know it's kind of late, but if you're here and you served on this committee, would you please stand and be recognized at this time? Put a lot of time and effort into this. And so, again, our objective for tonight is to obtain approval from you of the proposed boundary change for the 7 identified schools. Again, this is based on overcrowding in the East Arlington, and you've approved, and we're about to get started on some additions in the 3 schools that are mentioned here. Blanton with the increased capacity of 200 students, Knox with the increased capacity of 200 students, and Rankin with that same increased capacity through additional construction. The boundary committee, again, was comprised of the principals of the impacted schools and selected community members and parents and citizens, central administration representatives, as well as a Templeton demographics as a resource for this process. Again, this is the timeline. We started back with a lot of conversation back in September, and we've gone through meetings to discuss, and then we've gone through open community forums, 2 of those, which we had pretty good attendance at those from the parents and the communities of those schools. The parameters that we're really focusing on were student safety, educational needs, natural boundaries and major streets, transportation, cost, and distances, future growth, or as much as we could project it out, ethnicity and population, neighborhood identification, the feeder patterns, as well as we wanted to keep change to a very minimum. In the discussion of the forums that we had there, I talked to the principals a very lot about not trying to get into I want to go to this school, I want to go to that school, and that really never came up. It really never came up about what one school had over another, and so I was really appreciative of that, and it just led to, it talked to the great leadership at those campuses where it really didn't matter what school they went to. The academic programs were solid at all of the schools. A lot of portable buildings were discussed and how that would impact, and then we talked a little bit about the transfers. And then, again, these were very open and very transparent. Talked a lot about the transfer policy, and I think that came up at the last board meeting on how that would impact these new boundaries. And again, if students are going to be in the 6th grade at either one of these campuses next year, they will have the option to remain at that school. If they have siblings who are within if they're going to be in the 6th grade and they have siblings in that school, then they would be allowed to remain in that school also. And again, we would like to close all of these schools to new transfers again to try to maintain or to reach the full capacity of those campuses. And this is a picture of the map, and I think you have a picture of it in your packet. This is a map that we're recommending approval for. And at this time, if you will, I would like Mr. Raul Espinoza to come as a principal who sat on that committee and just talk a little bit about the process that we went through, if you will. So, Raul.
Good evening, President Hogg, members of the board, Dr. Cavazos. Mr. Hill asked me to speak just very briefly about the process that the committee used in drafting these proposed new boundaries excuse me, for the 7 East Side elementary schools. The goal of the committee was to produce a solution that was aimed at addressing the challenge of creating new boundaries that would also provide relief for those 7 overcrowded schools. I'm pleased to report that the committee in the process worked very well. There was a lot of open, respectful, and very frank discussion. During the discussion, it became quickly evident that there were many important factors that should be considered in the creation of these new boundaries. And as important as they all were, the safety of children quickly came to the forefront as being the element that warranted the highest consideration. There were no personal or individual school agendas that were addressed. The committee arrived at a couple of options that we felt provided the best solution and that met the prescribed criteria. Consensus was gained, and a final recommendation was then agreed to. That option is what is being presented, was presented to the community in open forums, and there was community support of the option that is before you now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Espinoza. And at this time, I will field any other questions that you may have about the recommended boundaries for the 7 schools.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
Yes.
Ms. Sullins.
Thank you, President Hogg. Thank you, Mr. Hill. Could you put the chart up with the map, please? And I think you discussed this during the work session, but I just wanted to confirm.
Okay.
These areas that have a non-contiguous attendance boundary, the pinkish one and the green one, I remember that you mentioned that you didn't want to make it, you want to keep change to a minimum. So these boundaries may look more contiguous once we have the new elementary school in place. Is that true?
That's correct. If you'll notice, if you'll see right to the right, that's 360, Highway 360, that's running north and south. And so you've got the green on the right side of that, or on the east side, that is actually going to Roark Elementary. You've got the blue that's going to Knox, and the purple that's going to Thornton. Right now, we didn't want to put those kids in a different school for 14-15 with the anticipation of a new school being built over there in east of 360, and then we have to reassign those students to another school. Again, a couple of those schools will be tight for another year, but we thought that it would be good to not move the students to basically 3 schools in 2 years.
Okay, I agree. I just wanted to confirm that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Any other questions? Seeing none, at this time, the board can take action if we have a motion.
I'd like to move to approve the boundary changes for Berry, Blanton, Crow, Knox, Rankin, Roark, and Thornton elementary schools as presented.
Perfect. We have a motion by Ms. Sullins. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second by Mr. Pompa. Motion by Ms. Sullins, second by Mr. Pompa. Any further discussion? Mr. Hill, I have one real quick question.
Yes.
I should ask. If a parent feels they want to stay in the same school, they can present their case to the principal and come to a superintendent decision to
That's
remain
correct.
at the current school, correct?
Yes.
That's all I need to know. At this time, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees are in the affirmative. We have some new boundaries, Mr.
Yes.
Hill.
We'll start communication.
Thank you so much. Next, we'll go into discussion action item B. Consider a schematic design for the new elementary school at East Arlington. Dr. Colossus.
Thank you, President Hogg. And this evening, we'd like to present the schematic design for the new elementary in East Arlington and discuss with the board the proposed design as well as some features of this new elementary school. Cindy Powell will begin this presentation. Cindy?
Thank you, President Hogg, board members, Dr. Cavazos. As you know, the board has approved construction of a new elementary school in the far east part of our district, actually east of 360, to help relieve crowding for Crouch and Anderson elementary schools in that area. And we have with us this evening Steve Hulsey with Corrigan and Associates to present the schematic design for the school.
Thanks, Cindy. Board of Trustees, Dr. Cavazos. Thank you for the opportunity, not only to design this new school, but to be here tonight to present our findings. I also have with us Ryan Cannell with our office, who's one of the key designers on this project. So we'll get right into it. We started off with this process, and we've worked with a committee of Arlington ISD staff over the last few months, and one of the things that we did to start off this process is we not only toured your newest elementary school, but we also took a day and toured other elementary schools and other facilities around the Metroplex and looked at different ideas that different school districts are doing in order to build the basis of some of the ideas we came with in the design of this facility. So some of the key elements that we came up with in the design and going through this process is the media center is in the heart of the school. It's the center of the school. It's visible at the front entry. We wanted to make sure that the media center was the key to the school and what everybody saw the first thing that they came in. Also, the outdoor learning space. An outdoor learning space is critical to the education process for Arlington ISD. but we also wanted to make sure that the outdoor learning space was also close to the media center, which is also close to the heart of the school. And then have a very clear secondary entry. It's very important to have not only the front door, but the secondary entry, which is, you'll see when we get into the plan and the design of the school, we have the front door, the academic door, the main ceremonial entry, and then we also have the secondary door, which is for all the after-hour activities. A completely different entry for those uses and those functions. And then the academic clusters, each grade level, we wanted to be able to have a very open and transparent school, but we also wanted each grade level to have what they felt or what they saw is their home, their place, where they're going to be. Second grade will know where second grade is. That's their home. And then finally, daylighting opportunities to get natural light into every space into the facility. North side, south side, make sure that daylighting is very key to the design of the school. So here's the site, and just for reference, north is up. Crouch Elementary is over on the right side of the site, and you'll see that we have an L-shaped site. Some of the key aspects of the site itself is there's a large group of dense trees that kind of go right through the middle of the site right here. And then this is a fairly flat area over here, as well as this with some trees on it on that side. But we wanted to make sure that the natural environment of the site, and you can see where the trees are right now, that those trees, that we maintain them as best we can and that we use that natural amenity as part of the design and not just go and tear it down and flatten it out, but keep them and use them and build around them. So when we were designing the site and looking at the site plan, we know that the road over on the east is a smaller road and a residential road, so we wanted to pull traffic away from that and use that as kind of the back door. So we directed all the traffic out to Timber Oaks, which is across the street from Crouch over here. We also know that the streets will be crowded over there because you have two elementary schools, so we wanted to get as much traffic onto the site, as much as the drop-off and pickup onto the site as possible in order to get them off of the city streets. So as you can see, we made this entry around the fields, the play area, the flat play area, this kind of ceremonial drive up to, which you'll see this is the front entry of the school right there. So we have all of this 3 lanes around this point right here, which is 3 lanes of drive. So you have a stacking lane, which is basically where the parents will come and just sit and wait, and then 2 other clear lanes. And in elementary schools we've designed before, we know those 3 lanes makes traffic work a lot better. So you can reserve that lane for parents to sit, but then you also have the flow for getting out and then getting around. So we have all of this stacking space here up to the main entry, and then there can be drop-off points around for cars to stack there. So the intention is the parents would come in here, go around, pick up, and depending on where they pick up, they could go straight out, or they could come this way and go out, or they could come loop around this way and then go out, taking as much traffic off of the city roads as possible and giving you the maximum amount of stacking zone on the site as possible with the maximum number of pickup and drop-off points around the building. Then we have another drive down here with its own drive off of Timber Oaks for the bus traffic. So we completely separated 2 completely separate lanes, 2 completely separate areas of the building where the buses never cross with the cars and the cars never cross with the bus in order to improve that traffic flow. We have parking down here, and what I'll show you when I get to the plan is the main entry's there, and then this is that secondary entry that we're talking about for the after-hours activities. And then there's those trees that are down the middle of the site, and you can see that's a big feature. We made the drive purposefully go around the trees and go through a thin point so that we could maintain and keep as many of those trees as possible. This is our partee, and the partee's the design initiative that we had as we started the design of this school. And you'll see the outdoor courtyard and the media center focused near the main entry is the key to the partee of the design. After-hour activities, grouping those together, but also linking those to the outdoor courtyard. The outdoor courtyard is really key to the whole, pulls everything together on the design. And then having a main circulating connecting corridor with each one of these academic clusters. And the academic clusters are the grade level pods that we'll talk about. So as we get into the plan, you can see, and we'll do, there's enlargements of this as we go forward, but this connecting corridor that goes all the way through the building, connecting all of the academic clusters with the after-hour activities and the front entry. And one thing we wanted to make sure, and you can see the way this corridor kind of jogs in and out, and it has a random path as you go down through there. We wanted to have interest as you walk through the facility and not make it just one straight corridor, but also make opportunities in that corridor where things come in and things go out, just like you have at Adams, for learning spaces in the main corridor itself. What we tried to do is use as much of the space as we could in the school for an educational opportunity and not just a corridor space. There's many opportunities that we have not only in the academic clusters, but also in the corridor and also in the multi-purpose space outside of the gymnasium. 2 levels. The first level is pre-K through third and then, or second, and then third, fourth, fifth, and sixth upstairs with the science, the admin area in the main entry, the outdoor courtyard, and then the kitchen, cafeteria, and gymnasium. So as we go into enlargements, this is the northern side, so this is this part of the first floor plan. And you see there's the main entry. Media center is directly adjacent to the main entry, so it's the first thing the parents are going to see and the students are going to see as they walk in the building. We have a secure entry that takes you directly into the reception of the administration, so there's no way to get into the building without having to go into reception to check in. All of the administration's right at the front as well. And then we have special education close to the administration area right in front. And then you'll see as the corridors going in and out, we have each one of these learning areas out in the hall. And then the grade level pods that you go down through there. And each one of the grade level pods has the 6 classrooms around the collaboration area, and I'll show you an enlargement of that in just a second. And then going down to the south side, there's the main entry again in the administration, the media center, but you see the outdoor learning area is right here. And that drive was out here. So the parents will come up, you'll see the outdoor learning space, and we wanted the outdoor learning space to be a focal point as well as the media center to be, you see education and the educational opportunities outside as you're walking up. After hours, everybody sees it 24/7. Then it also is going to tie into the education that's going on in the media centers in the cafeteria. But then we have openings from the media center and the cafeteria where they can, and the art room, which is right there, where they can take things, open the walls, open the doors, and go out, expand the building from the inside outside and outside inside. We have that large grove of trees right over here too, which is also giving you the natural tie to the outdoor education. We have the after-hours entry, secure entry back here, and then you see music, gymnasium, kitchen, cafeteria, art, all around here. One of the things that we've designed in this corridor right here is a tiered seating area that goes up to the second floor. And it's basically like an auditorium seating that goes up the stairs. We have the regular stairs on one side, but these are large 3.5 foot deep stairs where the students will come out and you'll sit in this auditorium-like multi-purpose space, sitting up on the stairs. And the educators can stand down here and they use that as an education space as well. For if they have multiple classes or grade level classes come there, they can bring the whole group there. They can get the projectors or get whatever teaching manipulatives they're using and use that for another educational space. As we said, we're trying to use every part of the building as an educational opportunity. And then we have a parent center right here, which is close to the back in the 2 entries. And that's for parents to come in and be able to have their opportunities as well, the PTA volunteers, and a place for them to be that's in the building for their opportunities to help with the students or help teacher aides or do things to help the education process as well. On the second floor, what we have is the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade pods, but you can see adjacent to the 5th grade and the 6th grade pod is the science cluster. So we have 2 science classrooms set up for the 5th and 6th grade as well as the rest of the elementary school. And then as we go down into the bottom part, you can see there's that tiered seating area that comes up to at the end of the corridor as well as the 6th grade classroom pod. So in these classroom pods, they're all set up kind of the same way. Same thing, multiple opportunities for educational space. So we have the 6 classrooms, and at the end of this pod is the facilitator's workroom, which is the teacher workroom, the place where the teachers will go collaborate together. Being able to work in here, and then students be working out in the collaborative space as well. So you got that unity between students and educators, well, even while they're working in their facilitator spaces. In the classrooms themselves, as you're walking down the main corridor, we envision this dividing wall here is going to be mostly glass, and it's going to be operable, so that if education, it's going to flow in and out of the main corridor as well. So they can close this off, and they can have a grade level collaboration here where they bring 2 or 3 classes together, or they can open up this wall and open up the wall there, and they can flow out into the hallway, into the main corridor, and bring 2 grade levels together, or just open up the space so that they can be able to teach across grade levels or collaborate amongst each other. As well as we have one operable wall inside the pod itself, so that if they wanted to stay inside the classroom space, they could open this wall as well and team teach. So everything that we're doing is making flexible education space and providing opportunities in every space across the building so that they can use the technology, the manipulatives, they can team teach, they can work together, the students can work together. This collaborative space is being envisioned as a space where it's going to have movable furniture, it'll have different types of technology out there, it'll have places where students can pull desks together and come to a group as 2 or 3 or as many as 10, where teachers can go in there and they can pull a class together, or they can send out their class with 2 or 3 groups to go and work. We saw this at 3 or 4 of the schools that we went and toured as our group, and it was working great because the teacher would have half their class in the classroom. You have the glass out where you can see the collaborative space, and then they would send out a group of students or a team to go out and work together, and the students would work together with an aide, or by themselves they were working, and it was working great where they were working back and forth across all of the spaces. So as we go to the massing model, and this is just the massing model, we still have to work on the fenestration and the color, but the massing model based upon the floor plan, you can see the drives going around, and you come to the main entry. So this main outdoor court, this main entry, there's the media center, there's the admin, there's the cafeteria over there. This is going to be the focal point of the school. Signify entry, signify education, signify the unity of indoor and outdoors, and also give that flagship look to the entry to the school. And then as you go down each one of the ends, you see that's one of the pods. The way we've arranged this school is that the north and south sides of the school is where the windows are going to be in the classrooms. So this side getting north light, this side getting north light, all the way down, and then the south side of the pods getting light into the classrooms. These sides, this west side over here would be less fenestration because it's a western window. Now, one of the things that we're looking at right now, you can see, is that's the cafeteria, and that's the media center and the main entry. We're doing light studies right now on the light that's coming into the media center, and we've ran our studies through our BIM model of 3 times a day through the entire year. And really right now, without us doing any more studies on any kind of shading or solar devices out there, there's 3 times a year where the sun actually penetrates more than a quarter into this space. It's just because it's the way that the building's located and the sun angles of this. So as we get further down in the design development, we'll add some louvers out there to cut out that after 3 o'clock, and the space will be basically fine all day long, as long as the students are there. And then that's another rendering. You can see we're still in the schematic design area, but we're figuring this is the outdoor courtyard area that's going to have an amphitheater, a tiered area, other educational opportunities out there. We've gone all kinds of manipulatives that you can put out in an outdoor education space, which that's still to be determined and still to be designed. And with that, I will open it for questions.
Do any of my colleagues have questions? Dr. Rush.
Nobody else will, I will. Great presentation.
Thank you.
Excited about the collaborative space and the maximum utility in the building. That's great. The front area, the outdoor area, I think it was kind of there in that rendering. Will that will be fenced in then?
Yeah, what we're thinking is it's going to be some kind of amphitheater, so we may have some kind of, you can see it's, back here, there's some representation of maybe some steps, and maybe make that an amphitheater area, and you can see this low wall right around here. It'll be enclosed, but whether it's a low masonry wall or it's a combination masonry, and you see we have just wrought iron fence over here, we haven't gotten that far yet on what that's going to end up being, but it will be separated from that for the most part.
Okay.
So that you can keep children away from,
yeah, that's what I'm looking at, is security.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then I know we were sent this electronically. I was looking for it. I couldn't find it. Can you tell me where there was a facilitator's workroom, I think I saw on the plan. Where would the teacher's lounge be?
Oops. It is, where's the lounge, Ryan? There's the conference room.
Go to the next one. Oh, it is right there, that break room.
Break room, right across from the parent center. Right there.
Okay, okay. And I hope is going to be something quite designed nicely, relaxing and comfortable for our teachers, as well as a productive workspace.
Absolutely.
Because they need it, they like it, they deserve it.
Dr. Reich, I think part of the design from what is their facilitator workroom will also kind of, I think, work towards a little bit of that break room space.
Okay.
I see more of them using that more than even the teacher workroom. Pros and cons to that either way, but I do see that as a little bit of the use.
Absolutely. Yeah, they have multiple opportunities that the educators do.
And while you're on that slide, the expandable or movable walls, that's going to be in every classroom, or is it's just that particular one?
Just that pair right there is what we're talking about right now,
okay.
And then we're also talking about this one that goes out to the main corridor as well.
Okay, and what was the rationale of just that one versus trying to do it more?
Well, because at least in the talking, you know, if they open it up for more than just 2 classes, then they just go out in the collaboration room.
Okay.
And there really wasn't, we weren't thinking there was any reason that they would open up this whole pod here without them just going out here and opening this up. But there was lots of reasons where they could have this teacher and this teacher and this teacher in collaboration space, but then only have 2 teachers working together and bring 2 classes together. So that was why.
Okay. And you mentioned the natural light, and you touched on some degree of efficiency. I know we're just at the I guess the raw planning phases. Are we going to look at any type of LEED certification and sustainability? And I'm interested in that. I'm also interested in general what we're doing to tie some of those energy efficient features into instructional opportunities for the teachers, for the kids.
Well, one of the basic codes that you have now and that we're applying to this school is gets you just very close to being a LEED certified building just by complying with code, because you have the motion sensors on the lights, you have high efficiency lights, you have high efficiency units, all of that. So to go the next step above that to be a LEED certified, there'd be a couple things that we would probably need to add, but then in order to get a LEED certified plaque, then you'd have to do the commissioning piece, which is like 1% to 2% of construction cost over and above that. Now, one of the things we could do in this, and we haven't gotten that far, but like we did in the Lady Bird Johnson Middle School design that we did for Irving ISD, which is a net zero school, we integrated all of the, and that was a LEED Gold school, that's what they wanted to do, but we integrated all of the environmental aspects of the design as well as all of the systems that we had into the design of the building, which they then in turn integrated into the curriculum for middle schools, and all middle schools are coming there, and they have We designed in there different classrooms where they have a geothermal classroom, and then you see the geothermal system working, where they have a wind unit, and you go outside and look at the wind turbines. So we could go that far with the systems and make the building a teaching tool as well as an environmental response. Both of those can happen very easily.
I'd be interested, you know, obviously I don't want to speak on behalf of my colleagues. I as one trustee would be interested in looking at that to see what the cost impact would be, the differential
Sure.
between what's budget now versus that. And I don't know if, I personally am not sold on getting the title lead certification. I'm more into the outcomes and the opportunities of efficiencies. But at the same time, I know that there are businesses and people that look for that now when they're moving to areas. And it's a label. And it might be worthwhile for us to consider that label, or it might be worthwhile for us to ramp up everything we can that essentially is that without the label, and then we have to do some kind of creative marketing that we have everything that is essentially equivalent to gold lead. It's just not certified, but that sounds confusing. So,
well, you can do that because when you go to Lady Bird Johnson, which is a lead gold school, the only reason that you know it's lead gold is because there's the lead plaque that you walk in the front door, and of course they have it posted everywhere in the district about its lead gold.
That's right.
Right. But as you walk up to that school, you see, and you can tell that there's something different about it because you walk up and you see the big interactive sundial right as you walk up the front door. You see the wind turbines going down the one side of the building. You see all the natural light that's in there. You go in and you see, as you walk down the main corridor, you see all of the units that are just, you can't pass them and not know things are happening there. And that's something that could definitely happen in here, is that we design those units into the school so that you know as you're walking through there, something special is going on here. But you don't have to go through the certification, unless you want to, the certification process, the commissioning process, which gets you the plaque.
All right. Well, I've put my opinion out there, but I'll leave it up for the rest of my colleagues. Just a couple other quick questions. The perimeter, will it be fenced, the entire perimeter of the property?
Yeah, we have it. Let me get to that site plan.
And that's essentially how our elementary schools are designed right now. I guess I was kind of assuming that it would be, but I'm also interested in what kind of material that would be.
Well, we're anticipating definitely, you know, the fence is going to go around the play fields over there and around there. Typically what we do is that when it's up close to the building and where everybody is, we do some kind of wrought iron, nicer wrought iron. And then if it's out around the fields and out away from it, we would do a vinyl coated black chain link.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
That's good. And then the final thing, can you touch just a little bit more on the entry vestibule as far as security access?
Sure. And it's, I don't have a blow up of it, but they come in the main entry and there's a pair of sets of doors right there. So typically the way this is set up is all the doors would be locked down, one of them is open. So there would be a sign, or parent would come open the one door.
Okay.
Then you come into this vestibule right here, and then there's these sets of doors back here that are locked. So
Okay.
a parent comes in and they can't go any further. So
Okay.
then they say, okay, I can't go in the front door, but there's a door right there into the reception with lots of view. The receptionist is sitting right there at the desk and can see into that. They can't get to the door, they turn, they go to that door, they walk in. That's when the receptionist badges them, checks them in, asks them where they're going, and then after they do that, then they send them back out into the vestibule, and then typically there's a little button that the receptionist has that unlocks the mag lock on the door. They go in and go on their way.
Okay. And those doors will be open on drop-off and pickup times, I would assume, as most are.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the same thing with the other doors around the building. In most cases, those are set up where they're open during pickup and drop-off time, and then when school starts, then they've got mag locks on them as well, and they all lock down. And then everybody knows, or they can't get in anywhere until they can only go to the front door.
Okay. And so with, right now we have the buzzer system where the parents can buzz in on the outside. That would be on the outside door. So from the reception area, before they even get into the vestibule area, or are you saying, I mean, I guess we're getting too into the weeds here, but I was just curious. They would be essentially have to get in that vestibule area through that buzzer system first.
Yes.
and then
Before they
get
get
into
into
the
the
reception
building.
area. And are we looking at bulletproof glass, with these being glass doors? I don't know if you've had those discussions in other districts. I hate that we're even having to consider
Sure.
those kind of things, but it's the times.
We've had that discussion in other districts, and two other districts that I work in, what they've come up with is that there is a bulletproof film that you can put on the glass, which makes it more resistant. You know, we're going to have insulated glass anyways. That's part of the energy code, so you've got 2 layers of glass. Well, you put this bullet-resistant film on it, and it's the most cost-effective way to make it better. I mean, it's not going to stop everything, but it does slow down a whole bunch more than having just the insulated glass. So that's something we can look at too. Okay. The districts that we've talked to this about and have considered that, the bulletproof glass is just so expensive. And where do you stop?
Right.
You just do it at the front, then you got to go all the way around the building, and then there's no place to stop.
I really like the design. Thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Ms. Solons.
Thank you, President Hogg. Thank you for your presentation, and I'd like to thank the entire team. This has been a very interesting evening to go over this first look of this elementary school. I do have a few questions, though. Let's talk about the media room, because you know, it's not what they've always been called. And so this would be the 21st century library. Right. Correct. You know, and that's, so that's basically the entire space.
Yes.
Very good. And it's not really like a computer lab like we've had in the past. It's just.
No, we've talked about lots of concepts that we've seen at the other schools. Is that this is going to be envisioned? It's not a library is a place to hold books.
Right.
Basically, this isn't a place to hold books. This is a place that has books. It also has it has electronics. It has technology. It'll have different kind of furniture, just like we're having all the other collaborative spaces where the students can come in and they can go around the computer and they can all work together. Or they can go pull it over in a corner and they can have a reading area and a teacher can read a book to them. Or they have a computer lab. All of that is, you know, how to make the space as functional and as flexible as possible. And it's a true media room, media space where that's every type of media you can think of.
Well, that's exciting, and I looked at a few schools that have that too, and I think it's the way of the future, and glad to see us move and expand out of book warehousing.
Absolutely.
And also, so it's improved student outcomes, I believe. Another thing, on the movable walls in the collaboration areas, how is the sound attenuation so that, you know, with those walls not being permanent walls, will sound penetrate other classrooms, or?
Are you talking about the ones between this classroom or that one there?
Both.
Both. Well, these we've used these many times in many other schools. What they have is they're an insulated panel themselves, and as they fold together, then they're insulated between the joints, and then when they close, they have what's called a drop-down sill at the bottom that closes that gap at the bottom. So they are acoustic. Are they 100% acoustic? No. If one class is really loud, they're going to be able to hear through it, but it works just as good as a drywall wall would. Two sheets of sheetrock with a metal stud. It's that good.
Okay.
But it's not soundproof.
So, you know, in a lot of buildings, you see the kind of the accordion kind of thing that comes across. Is it something along those lines, or something with a more sound attenuation?
No, those are accordion doors. These are movable walls. They have panels that are about 4 foot wide.
Okay.
And so the panels kind of fold as you fold down, and then you pull them and they fold together. So it's a lot better of a system.
Very good. Thank you. Dr. Reich brought up some very good points on safety and security, because it is our reality in today's world, unfortunately, that first off, I think safety and security of our students and our faculty, even before teaching and learning, because we have to have safety and security. So I appreciate the comments and the questions of Dr. Reich, but I wanted to ask about tornado area. You know, where do students go in all these schools with so much glass and so forth to lock down for weather or such?
Sure. Well, there's spaces in the building, and there's nothing in the total facility itself. If an F5 tornado comes, it's not F5 proof.
Because it'd have to be an underground
Exactly,
school.
right. So what we have in here is we have spaces that are inside the building that really are in the core of the building. like this space, these spaces that don't have windows, they're in the core, they're basically reinforced by building being all around them. And so what we've calculated is that there's about 6,100 square foot of that type of space in this building. And if you look at the FEMA guidelines for a tornado, it's not safe, but tornado better room,
Right.
they say you should allocate 5 square foot per student. So if we have 6,100 square feet and we got 5 square foot per student, that's 1,220 students, we have enough for the capacity of the building. And those spaces are all throughout the building. They're classrooms, some of them are classrooms, some of them are like the teacher rooms, some of them are restrooms that are in the core, all different kinds of spaces that are reinforced with 4 solid walls.
Very good. Earlier you were mentioning about the building may be able to be itself be an educational component. As Dr. Rush was mentioning his interest also, of, maybe it's part of a learning portion. And I would ask Dr. Cavazos if it would be consistent, as you look at this, is it consistent with the instructional model? Is it what we believe that our teachers and our education experts with it sounds engaging?
Sure, and I think as you notice the designs from Adams and moving on to this one as an example is bringing in that learning into the school and the collaborative space, the outdoor space. That would be another opportunity that I think we should look at in terms of how this building can be used, some of its core as a learning tool, if you will.
Sure.
In relation to cost and in relation to space and things like that, is certainly something we can look at.
Absolutely.
I think that building component as a learning tool sounds interesting. So, again, thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Ms. Solons. No other lights, but I have a question or two. So, Mr. Pompa, go ahead.
Thank you, President Hogg. Just in terms of capacity, what is the capacity for this building that you guys are designing?
It's 1,000.
1,000 students. And we've already looked to the demographic, the projections in terms of that's going to be sufficient capacity for the growth?
Yes, and it's actually 800, isn't it, or 900, Bob?
Oh, it's 800?
900.
900.
And it is, that's strategically located where we need, and that's another piece of the puzzle for East Arlington relief of overcrowding that it's projected to take us up to 10 years for the relieving of overcrowding. So it's in that area, and then with the additions and with the other.
There is enough room there for our continued growth, population in East Arlington.
That's
okay.
correct.
Okay, that's all I have. I've had great questions by Dr. Raj and Ms. Owens.
Okay. Mr. Barron.
Thank you, President Hogg. I'm looking at the west end of the property where it hits the street there. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Right across that fence is Crouch Elementary.
Yes, sir.
So we do in fact have some sort of traffic issues morning and school release.
Yes, and what we were doing was getting as you, with all the drives and all the roads that we have on site, getting all of the traffic for that school off of the roads, because we know that the school on the other side of the road doesn't have all that stacking space.
They don't even have any parking.
Yeah.
And Mr. Barron,
Yeah.
I think I'd add to the fact that this school, because it's located so close to Crouch, will relieve a lot of Crouch. So it's a lot of existing type of traffic that has to be flowed out to different areas versus a whole new 900, student set.
I like the whole concept of keeping the trees. I'm concerned from a tactical security standpoint that you can't see the athletic fields from the school with all the trees there. And the only access is the single roadway footbridge that goes between the school and the athletic fields?
Yes, sir. Okay. That or the road.
Okay. I don't like the folding walls in the classrooms. I think they're going to be noisy. And that's probably all for me for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Solons.
a follow-up question. The capacity of this school's 1,000?
900, I was wrong.
900. What's the capacity of Crouch? Sorry.
Right at 800.
Well, it's a lot of young children right in that spot.
And it also balances out the capacity. So hopefully we'll have some capacity. That's the plan.
Thank you, Ms. Solons. And Ms. Solons, I was just at that property doing a cleanup 2 Saturdays ago, and we actually cleaned up that field.
Oh, good.
And I forgot it was AISD property, and then I told everyone out volunteering it was our property, and they said, why aren't y'all cleaning it? I said, I forgot. So that's a whole different story of where it is. But it really is where the school's being designed. It's a good distance away. And so from the 2 schools, I think, if you're on the play field, you'll definitely see Crouch. But from the school, I don't think there's a thing. But I do have the concern Mr. Barron brought up that same thing, because I look at this site plan and I say, okay, the fields are out here, but then there's no playground out here. So are teachers forcing kids to choose one or the other, and then the teachers are splitting up? Because we know during the recess time, teachers go out there and they monitor what's going on. And so I do worry about the split on that, and seeing there's no playground out by the fields at that same time. Is that a concern, or what's that going to cause for us?
Okay, well, we have the playground back here because it's near the pre-K and the kindergarten area back here close to the building, but we can look into that.
It's like, is that how we have it at Adams?
Bob, it's like Adams, isn't it? You have a playground near the school, and then you have the fields?
One's near the school, one's across the drain.
Okay. I think Mr. Barron has a concern. It is, I don't know what the sight lines are going to be going out there, but that does seem really separated, even more than Adams. Adams has that drainage ditch to go over, but it still has sight lines to it. That is a concern.
Okay.
Dr. Reich answered my questions about the entrance. I think the secure film is the best way to go. Bulletproof is not a cost-efficient way, but secure film is not a bad thing to look into. Playground and fields answered. The fencing question, everyone knows I love to ask questions about fencing. The one thing I'd ask Bob and our group to do is make sure we could connect with our Keep Arlington Beautiful group also, to make sure, develop some kind of group together of what we're trying to do. You said the wrought iron. The one thing I would say is we have to compare to some of the properties that are around us, and you can look at Crouch, and we have much cheaper fencing than even some of the apartments have around those areas. So we do need to have a comparable location to those. Along the bus and service entrance, if you see that fence of all those houses right there, there are houses right behind where that entrance drive will come down. Many of those fences are in very need of repair. So that's something we do have to take into account. I don't know if we'd have a double fence there, their fence and then our fence, or what would occur. So that's one piece to look into. On the other piece, as Dr. Reich was asking, you mentioned the small masonry wall in front of the kind of amphitheater piece. The only thing I say is I think the small masonry wall is nice. We can't block them in like it's a prison. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And this is just, we're still designing that space.
I fully
it's
understand
just a
that.
placeholder
And seeing
right
the
now.
design, I like how it looks, and a little lower level with some, just to keep them within an area. I fully understand that. What about, and Dr. Reich, I would be interested in looking at the possibility of the LEED certification. Don't know if it's worth the 1 or 2%. I would ask our staff to make that consideration, our marketing department, and say, is it enough value? Do homeowners, are they looking for that enough to move into areas because of that LEED certification? Does it do those type of things? I do look at it from a major benefit value from lighting. If we spend a little more on lighting at this moment right now, it does reduce our maintenance costs. It does reduce our energy costs, some of those areas. So I'm not so worried about the LEED certification. I am worried about and I know you said you're about to do a study on some of the lighting. As high efficiency as we can go on the lighting, I think is a good investment of the dollars for the long term. We're talking, lighting from maintenance changes to energy consumption, all those different pieces. And I look at it even beyond energy consumption, what it takes us to change a light at facilities. If we can change it less and less, it saves a lot of money because you don't have, bodies cost a lot of money. people cost a lot of money. They're really expensive, full-time employees. So that's something I look. The other question I have is this whole school design, I know we have the buzzer at the front. Are we going to have keyless entries on all doors for this building?
I think so, right? Yes.
Will each classroom be keyless?
No. We hadn't considered that.
I think that's worth consideration so that we don't have keys for the school. It helps us on tracking who's coming in and out, who's coming into classrooms, teachers using badges. If you have badges that enable that, then staff is wearing badges more, and they're more easily identifiable in school. As we go in and build it, sometimes it's a little easier in that asset to consider. I don't know if it's cost effective. That's always a consideration, but it's worth a look into. Those are questions I have. Mr. Barron.
Just a couple more things. One was that lighting, you mean maximum use of natural lighting whenever possible, and then high efficiency lighting beyond that, right?
Without a doubt. There's a lot of things, when you look at some of the lead schools and, you know, some of our other, in Bedford and South Lake, what they do for outside lighting, it changes from, you have to replace that light, because this is now a security factor for your school. When those light goes out, Mr. Carlisle and his staff, they have to send someone out there to change that. If you can replace that instead of every year to every 3 years, that can make a big difference. It can reduce the amount of work that staff is having to do and make a difference, and also keep the school safer on what's happening. So that's where I would go. Yes, by all means, use of natural lighting is critical, but then you're also talking security lighting on the outside. There's a huge difference in what you can do in that lighting, and then the lighting that's on the inside, how do you make that as energy efficient, as even beyond energy efficient? I really look at the maintenance side as the important factor. Is where I kind of look at it.
Yeah, because there's nothing on the plan here about the exterior lights lighting the roadway and the
we haven't
fields and all
gotten
of
to
that.
that point yet, yes.
Okay. But that's coming?
That's coming
That's
down
coming,
the
yes.
pipeline.
Okay, and one last thing is, would the flagpoles be right there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Good question.
Can you put them in? Okay.
We will. Next rendering, you'll see.
Really tall.
Yes.
Mr. Hibbs.
We'll go back to Mr. Barron's earlier point about the collapsible walls. How many of the rooms were going to actually have collapsible walls?
Just two. Just in each one of the academic clusters, each one of the grade levels, that one wall between those two classrooms.
Okay, and the purpose of that is to be able to open it up at some point to a larger classroom experience?
To give the teachers the opportunity where if they wanted to bring two classes together and have an educational experience, they could do that there in that instead of going out into the collaborative space, because we're assuming that this is going to be full all the time with different students from each one of the classes out there doing their different activities out there in groups of 2 or 3 or 5. And so if two teachers want to come together and teach a unit, then that gives them the opportunity to do that there, still leaving this space open for all the other classrooms to use.
Okay. I'm working off of a situation that, you know, at my church, we've got these collapsible walls and they collapse down on one another, and they're kind of what you were describing. When I've been forced to put those up, to have a division in a room, I never can get them to lock right.
Sure.
And I'm just concerned of long-term wear. I mean, are these going to be things that are going to be on these casters that we're going to have to worry about them just breaking down on a continual purpose or on a continual basis and become more work, or where we just go back and say, you know, we throw our hands up and say we need to go ahead with standard walls? I mean, do we have, I guess from the administration standpoint, you guys probably have walked through this, do we have or foresee enough usage of this where it's that's going to be a practical or something that's going to be used repetitively, and we feel comfortable enough that those things are going to be durable enough to last not just a year, but 10 years?
Yeah. I'd ask Debbie Williams. Debbie, were you involved in this planning, right, of the school? And so tell us a little bit more about the thinking behind that from over here. about the thinking in that, having a wall that can do that?
Yes, as Steve said, if you've got the other 4 classrooms, and I'm a teacher, I've got 22 to 30 students, I may have 10 to 15 out in that area right outside my classroom, so I want to get 2 whole classrooms together. It allows 2 whole classrooms to interact together, and you're not prohibiting the other 4 classrooms from using that collaborative space. Otherwise, if I'm trying to get 2 classrooms together for a joint learning activity, then I would have to take up all that collaborative space, and then my team could not use that space. It just gets a lot more flexible.
Debbie, in your experience, are there a lot of times when you want to get 2 classrooms together?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. If we're doing a lesson together, or if, say, whatever unit we're studying, or if we're working on thinking of a math lesson, I want to partner together. I want to do extra groups. I may have groups of 6 or 7, and then I've got a large area that I can use collaboratively with, 44 to maybe not quite 60, but 55 kids in that area. I don't have to go reserve maybe the cafeteria when it's not lunchtime. It just is a lot more flexible.
Can I jump in here for a second? Okay. Now, let me clarify that in that pod of 6 classrooms, there's only 1 portable door.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so those top 2 classrooms. So those poor teachers have to get moved out of their classrooms whenever anybody wants to do 2 teachers in a room?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't see it working. I'm sorry, but I'm not nah.
Mr. Barron, I have to tell you, my thought on that is, because I see the jockeying of teachers who want to switch classroom, my only thought I think the doors are a good idea, but I would put them in every classroom to combo up. And I would ask staff to just think about it, because they did visit these schools that are having some of these and how they're being used and what they're being used for that. And collaboration, I always warn this board, we always talk about it. We want to hit the newest, what's working best for education, but we also don't want to ever go back to open concept classrooms.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking of,
was
too.
a flavor of
didn't work.
Flavor of the education decade, and boy, did that fail miserably. So we always have to be very cautious to not go back to that level. The other thing I would ask, which I think is a great concept, and Dr. Reich talked a little bit about it, was on the facilitators' workrooms for each little pod. I know we're not into furnitures, fixtures, and equipment fully yet. That's going to start going in, but how do we make that where teachers can be in there and potentially video conference with parents? Because we've talked many a times about how do we get to that stage of parents that can't come in, how do you still connect with them, and 4 teachers, 6 teachers are in there and having that one meeting with that parent in that room. I think that facilitator workroom is a key factor, and that is glass looking out to the collaborative area,
yes.
Correct? I think that facilitator workroom is a great design. I think teachers will eat that up, and it becomes a huge asset for groups to be able to utilize. Bob and team, just think through our FF&Es in there, what we're doing to really make it that new 21st century school that we're trying to achieve here. Dr. Reich.
Just to clarify, the space between the collaborative space and the facilitator workroom is glass, or between the classrooms also?
There'll be good. We haven't gotten that far about how much glass, but what
there'll be some for visibility.
Yeah, we want this all to be really open, transparent for every spaces. Now, I don't know if that means this is all going to be glass. I don't know how much glass it means there. There'll be glass here. We don't know. We haven't gotten to that point
I'm just
yet
thinking from a teacher or classroom facilitator standpoint, they want to have some type of eyes potentially on those kiddos that are in that collaborative space.
Exactly.
Okay. Eyes and storage. Teachers will tell you they want storage, and I know our team's building those in, so I don't even have to ask about that. Any other comments? this is a first round, real schematic. You guys have done a great work. Thank you, Mr. Carlisle. Thank you, Corrigan team.
Thank you.
We have lots of ideas, but
Thank you.
we also
Thank you.
have a
fun.
lot of trust in you guys as professionals. So we're just trying to get what we think the community needs and push it through to that. So thank you guys. Thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you. It's an exciting project, and we're proud to have the opportunity.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Mr. Carlisle, it may be for you or Steve. What's the timetable for next steps in this with the board?
Well, what we will begin to do is develop they'll begin to develop the design. We'll get with their engineers, talking about the energy efficiency part of that. I'd like to tell you that through both the existing codes and our energy guidelines that we handed off for Adams Elementary School, after the first month of operation at Adams Elementary School, it is our most efficient building in the district. So I think that speaks good to what we've done. Exterior lighting will all be LED lighting. The cost of LED lighting, interior lighting, is still kind of far-reaching. I think we'll come to that. But really, the next time we'll bring anything back to you will be that GMP, the Guaranteed Maximum Price.
Okay. And tonight, to the board, we do have this as a discussion action item. The action we need to take is just approving the schematic design, and steps to move forward is what we have, with some of our recommendations being looked into. At this time, if someone would make a motion, we could look at moving to allow them to move forward on next steps of this phase.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the schematic design as presented, and also consider the trustees' comments this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Solons. We have a motion by Ms. Solons. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Solons, a second by Dr. Reich. At this time, any further discussion from trustees? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees vote in the affirmative. We can move on to the next steps of this project. Thank you guys for your time tonight. Next, we'll go on to consent. All my paperwork. Next, we'll go on to the consent agenda. Are there any items to be withdrawn from the consent agenda? Mr. Barron.
Thank you, President Hogg. I'd like to pull item I, consider guaranteed maximum price, for a separate discussion.
We'll pull item I. Mr. Pompa, your light's on also? Perfect. We can pull item I twice. Great minds think alike over there, gentlemen. So tonight we'll be considering items listed on the agenda under consent item. Ms. Powell, please share donations and bids with us.
President Hogg, board members, Dr. Cavazos, we have donations to report this evening. It's my privilege to report that our schools have received donations from the following individuals and organizations: Pat Ferrerio, Arlington High School Choir Booster Club, the Arlington High School Baseball Booster Club, Speedy Bee Car Wash, the Arlington High School Wrestling Booster Club, Gen Youth Foundation, Youth Service America, Arlington Kiwanis Foundation, the Arlington High School Boys Basketball Booster Club, the Bowie High School Band Booster Club, Target, Lamar High School Baseball Booster Club, Lamar High School Softball Booster Club, Spring Creek Management Company, Martin High School Sundancers Booster Club, Vandergrift Toyota, Martin High School Volleyball Booster Club, Martin High School Football Booster Club, Martin High School Girls Soccer Booster Club, Auto Liquidators, Texas Health Harris Methodist Hospital Fort Worth, Texas Healthcare PLLC, Affiliated Bank, Martin High School Cheerleading Booster Club, Martin High School Baseball Booster Club, Martin High School Girls Basketball Booster Club, Martin High School Swimming and Diving Booster Club, Martin High School Wrestling Booster Club, Serena Kundasek, Steve Cincy, Brenda Armstrong, Thomas Mojesic, Justin and Anna Chapa, Michael and Laura Heyman, Pantego Lions Foundation, Fernando Benavides, All-Star Sports Youth Association, Clifford and Beverly Jacobs, Abdo Publishing, Cherry Lake Publishing, The Creative Company, Crabtree Publishing Company, Derek Kinney, Rotary Club of Arlington North, Shackelford Junior High School Boys Athletic Booster Club, GM Financial, First Rate, Sharon Maloof, Medical City of Arlington, Donald and Cheryl Davis, Hill Elementary School PTA, Glamour Craft Studio, Key Elementary PTA, the Larson Elementary PTA, Moore Elementary PTA, and Wood Elementary School 6th grade parents. So the donations reported for your consideration this evening total $132,190. That brings our year-to-date total to $411,702. And we now have 7 bids for your consideration on consent this evening. And in all cases, the administration recommends the lowest bids and the bids representing the best value to the district.
Thank you, Ms. Powell, and I always like it when that's a long section of the evening. So we thank our community for the generous donations as we're getting caught up to donations year-to-date previous year. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda with the exception of item I that has been pulled for later consideration?
Move to accept the consent with the exception of item I.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Barron, a second by Dr. Reich. Any discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 5 trustees present, 5 trustees voting in the affirmative. Ms. Pena's not here. Mr. Pomp, I had to step out for a second. Mr. Pena. Now we'll discuss consent agenda item I that was withdrawn. Consider guaranteed maximum price for construction of additions and alterations at Blaine, Knox, and Rankin Elementaries and appropriate surplus 2009 bond funds. Mr. Barron?
Thank you, President Hogg. Because of the complexity of this item and the source of the funding, I would like for Ms. Powell to explain it to us just a little bit.
Okay.
Sure. This is an item brought for the board's consideration, again, to set the guaranteed maximum price for the classroom additions and alterations at 3 elementary schools, Blanton, Knox, and Rankin. As part of the original 2009 bond package, there was $10 million included in that package for classroom additions. I think it was December of last year, the board authorized using some surplus money from the 99 bond package to put an addition at 1 more school, so a total of 3 classroom additions. And we actually reset boundaries earlier this evening to adjust boundaries for schools that are being affected by these classroom additions. So the total budget approved by the board in December of last year was $13.7 million for the 3 classroom additions. We came to the board in August and talked about a need to increase that budget by another $3 million to take care of, I guess, 2 broad categories of need. One, we were finding we had some additional scope that we needed to add to these projects in order for these 3 schools to be able to fully accommodate and effectively accommodate the additional students we were putting there. That was largely additional scope for parking and for a breezeway, and closing a breezeway at 1 school. We also found that our original thought had been that we could create 10 classrooms at Knox in an existing old gym space. And once the architects got in there, they found that we were not going to be able to get 10 classrooms out of that space. So there's actually a classroom addition at Knox to get us the additional classrooms we would need to make sure that they had 10 new classrooms in total from the project. So that was part of that additional $3 million that the board authorized in August. Since then, the architects and the builders have continued to refine their plans for the project, all 3 sites. North Star Builders is our construction manager at risk on the project. They put the construction documents out for bid. And as the bids have come back, we are seeing some additional cost in the areas of concrete, HVAC, and plumbing that were driving cost up. We also were now, as part of these bids, receiving or incurring some costs for some site utilities that that the city finalized for us after we came to the board in August for that last budget increase that had not been anticipated at that point. So these things together are driving the budget now another $600,000, $661,000 beyond what the budget was that the board approved in August. So we're coming to the board tonight kind of twofold on this item. One is to approve the GMP, which is basically the summation of all the bids from the subcontractors for the construction work itself. That is $16.3 million. Once that's set, the project, the construction cost will not exceed that amount unless the board comes back and authorizes additional scope within the project, okay? The other thing that we're asking the board to do this evening is to appropriate additional surplus funds out of the 2009 bond package to fully fund the project, that additional $661,000.
And that money is available in the bond package?
It is. Right now, at this point, we have over $8 million surplus in the 2009 bond package, and so with the $661,000 used out of that surplus, it brings the remaining surplus now to $7.4 million.
Mr. Pompa.
Thank you, President Hogg. One of the reasons I wanted to pull this was just to give everybody else an opportunity to discuss this, because we discussed this in committee before when the administration brought it to us. One of my concerns was that this is the second time that it comes back to us with additional costs. The first one was, as you mentioned, primarily because we had anticipated that we could use some space that we couldn't, and we're actually having to add on. And now it's because we kind of missed the mark on the cost of the construction. And you know, a project that initially we started at one price is now about $2.5 million more than what we had originally approved. And so we've drilled Miss Powell already on it a good bit, and I was actually pretty frustrated about it, about the fact that it's so much more. And you know, she gave me good explanations for everything we've done. My request in the future is, as we get these type of projects that we know we're not going to build for another 2-3 years, to factor in some cost of inflation. I know you can't always predict, and I don't know that you could have predicted the huge cost of increase of increased cost of the construction materials that we've seen really over the last year. But to, whenever we can, go ahead and put that in, saying, okay, we're not going to build for another 2-3 years. So although that's the cost of construction material today, we have to, you know, factor in, and I know you do to some degree.
And we do, and that's a good point. Just as an example, the new elementary school in East Arlington that you've just seen the schematic design on, the budget on that is $23.6 million as compared to the budget we had for Adams, $22 million. So we allowed for some inflation there. We have another elementary school that's part of that whole East Arlington plan that the board approved last year in December. And we have budgeted that one at a little over $24 million, I believe. So and we actually already have the land for that. So we have allowed for inflation on those new construction projects.
And just one quick question, I'll allow the rest of the board to pitch to chime in on this, since I've already talked about this quite a bit. On the guaranteed maximum price, do projects ever come under guaranteed maximum price?
They do, absolutely,
okay.
They do. And as a matter of fact, in most cases, they do.
Okay, all right. Well, again, thank you, and I'll just open it up to the rest of the trustees if anybody else has any questions.
Well, I'll just point out that all these estimates were made during the downturn in the economy, and I guess when we were estimating, we didn't take into account that sooner or later the economy would turn around, which it has, and that's why the prices have gone way up. Okay. So.
I think it's good to question. I thank you, the committee, for really looking into this, because we all know sometimes contractors' change orders can have a big increase. So guaranteed maximums are put them in there in estimates, and Ms. Powell, y'all don't miss much. I wouldn't really say you missed on this one, but inflation caught us a little bit and price increase. So at this time, do we have a motion if it's coming from committee or from individuals?
I'll move that we go ahead and accept item I, consider the guaranteed maximum price.
Perfect. We have a motion by Mr. Barron to accept item I. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
We have a motion by Mr. Barron and a second by Mr. Pompa for approval on action item I, or consent agenda item I. Any more discussion? Seeing none, please vote. 6 trustees present, 6 trustees vote in the affirmative. We are approved. Next, we have discussion item A, Capital Needs Steering Committee. Dr. C.
Thank you, President Hogg. At this time, we'd like to give the board an update on the Capital Needs Steering Committee and explain where we are in the process and what's coming next. Ms. Powell?
Yes. Thank you again, President Hogg, board members, Dr. Cavazos. We have David Sturts with us this evening from DeYoung Richter. He will give us an update on the facility master planning process as part of all this. We also have with us one of the co-chairs of the Capital Needs Steering Committee, Jeff Williams, and he likewise is going to offer his observations on the options development work we've been doing and also give a quick summary on the work of the subcommittees. So I will turn it over to David at this point. So.
Good evening, President Hogg, Dr. Cavazos, members of the board. It's good to be back with you. I feel like I'm a regular now, though.
That's good. That's a good
thing.
thing.
It's a good thing. Oh, baby's beautiful. Baby's beautiful. See you tomorrow. So it's a good Friday. Okay, well, I just want to give you a brief update as to where we are, where we stand in the process. I was with you a month ago to give you an update. A lot has happened since then. A lot will happen before we adjourn, come back together in this setting. So, to give you an idea where we are in the facility study, which is complete, and I'll talk about that briefly. We'll talk about the community dialogue, number one, how that ran, and we talked about option development, what occurred in those 2-day meetings, and then next steps. So, last time I was with you, I showed you our 12-step program here and where we were. We were at community dialogue number 1. It's late. We got to have a little humor, right? And now we're at that darker circle down there. We're at steering committee number 4, coming up after the options work session. The facility assessment data has been completed by Jacobs, reviewed by the district. There's going to be, as there always is, there's a tweaking around the edges with such things because there's just a lot there. So minutia will change, but the meat and potatoes is done. And I am assured, as of this evening, I'll get an update of all that, even on Monday. And so we'll use that. We use the data in the options development along with the results in the community dialogue, which I'll mention. Community dialogue number 1, we hosted 4 meetings. You all hosted 4 meetings. And we had a good attendance. We had 181 registered citizens, and there's always an X factor of those who don't sign in. So we estimate about 200 folks were in attendance. We held those at Sam Houston, Lamar, Bowie, and the PDC. You can see just a brief analysis of where folks came from. There's more statistics there, so you can see percentage of teachers, students, and so on and so forth. But we had a good representation, even despite the rain on the first evening. We had good turnout. We posted the questionnaire online from the 16th to 21st, and we had 489 respondents, which is healthy. That is a good representation. The draft results were used from both the web and the individual planning area. Results from the community dialogue were used to inform the options development. And a full report is in process. That's why I was plugged into the back of the wall here this evening, and continues in process and will be posted publicly and given to you upon completion. Just to give you an idea about what you're going to see, for example, one of the questions was, do you believe that career and technical education in the future should offer the programs listed below? And so there was a list of programs that were on the questionnaire to the public, and you can see agreement, disagreement, no opinion by program. And you can see that, you will see that by roll-up, you'll see that by web, and you'll see that by planning area. Options development. This is a panorama of what we call the war room. When we go into options development, we have a screen up on your far left there that had GIS data. We had a screen in the middle that's all whited out here. Unfortunately, you can't see. We had tabular data, and then the screen off to the right that's hidden, we would have questionnaire results. And so we're able to see major data sets and use those as we go about through the process. And what we did in that process was we organize data into buckets. So we take the planning area, A, B, C, D. And then we do by grade level. And then we take those grade levels and we look using GIS to see, okay, well, proximity within the grade levels, within the planning areas, what schools are closest to each other. And we group those into buckets, planning area buckets. And so we look at what is the facility condition index of each of those buildings, what's the capacity of the building, what's the enrollment of the building, what's the 5-year projected enrollment of that building, and then we kind of get an idea about what's the health of this facility, both in its nuts and bolts, as well as how it can hold students. And including with the facility condition index, we look at educational adequacy, so how well does that building support the educational programs of the district. And we use the questionnaire data to help us inform, okay, well, what is the public telling us if the scenario here is overcrowding, what kind of resources, what kind of action plans in general does the public say that they're going to support and not support when such a challenge or an opportunity so arises. So the purpose of the options development is to take all of these data sets and put them into manageable components so that when we go to the steering committee next, this following Thursday, we'll be able to present them the data by school, by bucket within the planning areas, and then with some sample options that the data suggests would be apparent given the data. So what I wanted to do tonight is just to give you some images from the options development so you can kind of see what we did and what comes out of it. So for example, we have high schools up here, and you can see the high schools, you can see FCI costs, you can see enrollment and capacity. Capacity is in red. You can see FCI would be, I'm walking away from the microphone, I do this all the time, sorry, I'm a wanderer. You'll see percentages there. Well, you might see it, it's kind of hard to see it. But so you see like a percentage, an FCI percentage of typically 25+%, you start to look at, we need to consider some work on this building. When the average is about 18-19%, I believe, across the district, it's pretty healthy. Your buildings are in decent condition across the board. And then we look at that projected enrollment and capacity and see, okay, well, where are we running into some issues here, if we are? We then look at, for example, what items are critical to the mission of the district as far as high schools go. We had that broken down by high schools, junior highs, and elementaries. We then would look at specific schools, Nichols, Shackelford, for example. We would see that the FCIs are about 34 and 23, if I read that correctly from here, %. And you got enrollments of 799, 738. With capacity there over 1,000. So you've got some room there. It's increasing, but you still got some room. So we're not looking at, oh my gosh, we have overcapacity here. We need to get some students out and adjust them. And so an option would be something like work on priority 1 through 3 life cycle and 5-year life cycle costs and look at athletic needs in addition to this. And to your right, what I neglected to mention just a minute ago is we use GIS heavily. So when we're doing this, we're not just looking at the static enrollment data, static capacity data, which is very good, but we also will zoom in GIS and see, okay, well, is this school really in good condition? Because let's see how many students live within the boundary but attend out. And what if that would shift if programmatically something changed at the school and students would start to come in who are zoned in but aren't currently going in, would we still have capacity at that building, yay, nay? And so it's a lot of bouncing data back and forth throughout the room to come up with viable options based on what the data says. And what we'll do next at the steering committee meeting is to present them with the report, the output of those 2-day work sessions, and help them to draft a questionnaire. There we go. I feel like Luke Skywalker now. So we will review the draft questionnaire report, which we're working on, that shows what the community said. We will begin to review, we like the word scrub, those options. So here's the raw option output that we came based on the data in those 2-day sessions. Committee, have at it. Let's work on it. We're going to work on it just like we have throughout the process and earlier things. Review it, look at the data, look at the background report, look at the questionnaire report, and get the community's feedback via the steering committee. And so that's going to be steering committee 3. These meetings tend to be a bit longer than the other ones. And then the 4th meeting on the 25th, Thanksgiving week, on that Monday, we will finalize the draft options. That is not an oxymoron, finalized draft. This goes in stages. So we are finalizing the draft options, which we will then present to the community again in the second community dialogues, which are scheduled for the 10th and the 11th. This questionnaire for the community will come down from the 30,000-foot level, which we were at the last time, about what kind of programs do you want and where do you want them, to here are some options. Here's the data that went into drafting these options. Provide us your feedback on these specific options. We're looking and anticipating a higher turnout for the second community dialogue than the first, as is standard, because this is brass tacks. This is actual options that folks want to look at. And I have to say that the district has done a fantastic job on communications. From the last time when we went from 2 community dialogues to 4, and Leslie was tweeting and Facebooking and who knows what else. We had a good turnout there in a short turnaround, and ferrying Dr. Cavazos around the city that night to meet all the meetings. We'll do that again so that we make sure that we hit representative sample geographically of the district and invite everybody to come through all the different communication mediums that we have. And just, this is the same slide that I had up the last time to end before I went into questions. But this little snapshot here on the far right here is going to start to make more sense, because as you can see, there's a map there that shows, well, here's an option. Well, here's the GIS data that supports the option. Here's the strengths and the reasons why this option makes sense. Here's some challenges. Here's a timeline for implementation based upon all the discussions we've had with steering committee and district and so on and so forth. So all those paper flip charts will start to merge with the GIS, will start to merge with the questionnaire, will merge with the steering committee's input, and eventually by February you will receive this packet that will have all that information combined and fleshed by your community. So with that, I will eventually learn to put questions on the last slide, probably by January, and so questions.
No need, we'll ask me if you don't have a slide.
Okay.
With that, I'll open it up to my colleagues. Do you have any questions? Mr. Pompa.
Thank you, President Hogg. What did you think in terms of the community participation as in relation to the size of the district compared to what you've seen in other areas where you've done this?
Sure. Well, I hope you don't tire of me relating it to Fort Bend, because we're doing a parallel process right now with Fort Bend, just south here. Comparable size, it's a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And they had all total just shy of 300 in attendance,
Okay.
but they're a bigger district. Mm-hmm. So per capita, you're right on the mark there.
Okay.
They had today 512 web responses,
Mm-hmm.
but again, bigger district.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think just looking at your neighbor down the road here and across the way, this is healthy. This is very good.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. So you don't put a slide and you don't have a lot of questions.
Well, I'll forget it next time.
Thank you for the interim update. I know the committee's moving forward very well. I think our community engagement committee, Dr. Reich, Mr. Hibbs, and Mr. Pomp, I know you guys are spending a lot of time on this. I thank you for your work. Thank you, staff, for all the work. Thank you guys for all the work.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
I guess.
Yeah, right, we have Jeff Williams with us to also give his observation on the process and talk
Perfect.
about subcommittees.
Good evening, Mr. Williams.
Good evening.
Sorry,
Good
we
to
didn't
see you. Mine will be less than an hour, much less than an hour, just a few minutes. But I think it's important probably to start out with, first of all, the questionnaire. And I love the question that School Board Member Pompa asked about the numbers. And, you know, I wanted more there, but yet the quality that was there at the table was magnificent because people wanted to engage and answer those questions. And there were a lot of them, and they were very involved, and yet people took the time to go through them. And I was very excited about that, and they were very impassioned. And at my table, I had 2 students that brought their parents with them. And I don't think either one of those parents would have been there if their students hadn't come. But when they got into those questions, they were engaged, and they were key members on the table that had great input there on the questions itself. So I think we got great feedback there, regardless of the numbers. I know that we got some great feedback, and people didn't want to leave, did they, Dr. Cavazos? They wanted to stay and talk. There, we didn't have a situation where people were just rushing through the questionnaire and getting through. And of course, then there was so much data that we had. It was most interesting to me that when I went into the room there on the options that they had already gotten so far. I went in on Thursday afternoon. Chad and I came in then to what we thought they would still be compiling the data. They pretty much had it, but it was very understandable. There was great discussion then, but I was very pleased the fact that we really could understand what we had there in front of us. And also, they explained how we would use the data. So I think we'll have some productive meetings there in the committees there as we move forward. And then, of course, subcommittee work has been going on in the midst of this there. First of all, the Transportation Subcommittee has had 4 meetings, and they've completed the work. And we have asked in the committee, I serve on the Transportation Subcommittee there too, and we've asked some good questions and we've asked some bad ones. And I appreciate staff for being patient with some of our bad questions and some details that we get into. And Tony was very patient. Tony Drollinger, I've got to commend him. I wasn't in any of the other subcommittees, but he was very patient with all of us and went through it. But what we did is we looked, of course, at the needs there for our buses in the white fleet through 2019. And so we'll be ready here to present that here at the next meeting. The Fine Arts has already completed their work. They were quick. They got through it, but I think it's because they knew what they needed to do. There wasn't a lot of discussion needed. They were very pointed and ready, and I'm anxious to hear what they have to say. And then our technology subcommittee has just had their second meeting there on November the 5th, and they're going to be taking their final votes on what they're recommending here at the end of this week, so they'll be ready to here to present here at our next committee meeting there for it. So a lot of work has been done, and I am looking forward to a lot of people showing up here at our community dialogues in the next round that we have. Word of mouth is spreading too, and then of course there's much more done than that. As you know, it's pretty much publicity is gone in all different mediums, but I am excited. There's been a lot more buzz, I think, too, after those community dialogue meetings. So anyway, we're moving, and I'm anxious here for the next few meetings that we have. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Williams, and you're right on. You've done a wonderful job helping lead this committee and the community dialogue. The more we can get there, the better we're doing. So all those people that showed up to the first one, it was fun watching them go into it. They were really into it. They were taking it very serious, and that's what we always appreciate. So thank you on behalf of the board for all your work on this. Any other comments, questions, discussions? Perfect. With that, we will move on to open forum for non-agenda items. I apologize to the 2 parents that have been waiting. Hopefully you're still here. We have 2 cards this evening to discuss. First we have up is Ms. Jennifer McGill-Smith speaking over bullying. Now we come to open forum. The second forum of the agenda is citizens with opportunity to address the trustees. This is not intended to be a discussion or a debate, and trustees will not reply to the speakers. Derogatory comments aimed at individuals will not be tolerated. When your name is called, Ms. Smith already called you to the podium, you'll have 5 minutes to speak. A lighted timer on the podium will assist you in pacing your presentation. A yellow light will illuminate when there is 1 minute left for you to complete your presentation. When the red light comes on and the buzzer sounds, please end your presentation. Ms. McGill-Smith, I show that you're talking of bullying tonight.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Cavazos, Board, President Hogg. I apologize. It's been a very eventful evening. Unfortunately, I will be the one that will not be so nice. My name is Jennifer McGill-Smith. I'm a product of Martin High School, and we live here, and this is where our family is. And we have 4 precious children who go to 3 high school, junior high, and elementary. So we still have 3 more waiting to come in, so we will be here for a very long time. I am disappointed in you, Board. I am a parent who has served this district proudly as a substitute, as a parent, and a volunteer. And on October the 7th, we were notified that there is a CPS investigation on our family. The schools will not talk to me. The counselors, your assistant principals, and your principals will not do us the courtesy as parents to talk to us. I've waited 3 weeks to talk to you. Do you want to know why? Because when I called, because when I went up through the chain of command, like I am supposed to, no one would help us. The State of Texas Family Code 151, Rights and Duties in Parent-Child Relationship. It says, and this is .003, a state agency must not adopt rules or policies, take any other actions that violates the fundamental right of a parent. I go to your student code of conduct, page 1. The rights of students, teachers, parents, and administrators are to be valued and are protected under federal and state laws. The AISD will strive to achieve a working balance between rights and responsibility, which foster a positive school climate where there is mutual respect and an opportunity for students to develop at their fullest potential. Do you think the last 4 weeks my students have been able to be at their fullest potential? Having CPS come to their schools in front of their friends, taking them out of their classes, asking questions like, do you know who your mother is? My children are remarkable. My children are A, B students. My children are in extracurricular activities. Their behavior is extraordinary. We are a good family. We have absolutely amazing children. You won't talk to me. For 4 weeks, our world has been turned upside down. Why? We don't know why. I remember when we go to kindergarten orientation, the first thing a teacher says is, welcome. I won't believe everything about you if you don't believe everything about me. 30 days, Board. The kids were only in school for 30 days before somebody called CPS. You have community partners, UTA, TCC, other businesses in Arlington. Why don't you be a partner with CPS? Why don't you support these teachers and staff and these parents by finding out what's going on, for not rushing to go and make calls and accusations that put a shadow on a good family. You don't have to live what we've lived for 4 weeks. I'm very honored that my husband works for 2 godly men, James Dare and Sam Norsinger from the church, because they haven't fired him, Mr. Hibbs. What would this do to your careers? What would this do to your families, Board, if accusations came up against you? Would you be able to run in an elective office? Do you think you would be the president of the ISD? do you think you would be here, Mr. Superintendent? My heart is broken. I am disappointed. You have no answers for me, and that's fine. I'm a Christian family, and so I know that God's going to take care of this, and whatever comes out of this, I know that there's a reason, and I will pray for you, okay, that your eyes see and not vision, that you listen and not hear, that your mouth is humble and your heart is encouraging. For other families like me, that you do not see the devastation of what happens is when one person tells me they're just following policy, a policy that this board makes, approves.
Ms. McGill, thank you for your time. I'm going to ask you, if you would, please meet with Mr. Hill. So our Assistant Superintendent of Administration, Mr. Hill, if you please talk right there. We can't make a lot of comments right now, but I would ask you to please meet with him right now for this. Thank you. Up next, we have Ms. Tammy Sutherland discussing safety issues at Lamar Baseball Field. Good evening, Ms. Sutherland.
Good evening, Board. Thank you very much for entertaining a mother. First of all, I have been a citizen of Arlington for almost 20 years. I have 2 children that have gone through Arlington ISD, and we are very pleased that we are part of this program. However, over the last 10 years, I have been involved with baseball in Arlington at some level, whether it is with Arlington Little League, Arlington Baseball Association, or serving at Arlington Lamar for committee purposes. And I have got some things here that I will just leave for you to review, but let me kind of go through to make this as quickly as possible. We understand that a site evaluation was completed, and we were curious as to what the findings were for Lamar High School, and specifically the baseball program. What were the following deficiencies, if there were any noted, and if not, what was a part of the site evaluations that were done, and if any of these things were highlighted. So the first thing is the baseball field lighting. We have got some significant issues there, and I've brought that up with several of the board members already on a one-on-one basis. The maintenance issues with netting, unlevel playing fields, and spectator bleachers. What we have are right now 40 lights total that are on the overheads, and they do not meet lighting minimum requirements for baseball fields, and they have not for multiple years. I'm talking close to 10 years. The board has been made aware of that based upon other reports that have been brought to their attention over the last 10 years. 4 lights are completely out at this point and cannot be fixed or repaired, and this is according to AISD maintenance. I believe that the equipment is so antiquated that we can't even get replacement parts or bulbs for them any longer, which equates to a 10% outage of unrepairable lighting system that did not even then meet the minimum requirements for athletic fields. There have been numerous studies and results that have been ignored by the AISD Athletic Department for several years, and dollars have been appropriated and spent on practice fields over the safety of the baseball fields in Arlington. This is not just Lamar High School, it is Sam Houston, Martin, and Arlington High. O.J. Kemp was provided a quote for new lights by Coach Paul Kino last year, and we have not received any updates as to the status or timeline for replacement on such. These actually can be ordered and replaced before the baseball season in February, and that would be greatly appreciated. I know the boys would be ecstatic if they were able to actually see a baseball coming at them in the outfield when it gets to be about 9 o'clock at night, including my son who graduated from Lamar. He just said, "Mom, there's no way you can actually really see that until it comes down out of the lights." The protective netting and the backstops, we've got some issues there. My biggest question is, what is the responsibility of the school? What is the responsibility of AISD maintenance? And what is the responsibility of the coaches and booster clubs? Right now, I understand that softball has a complex that is being maintained by the district, but yet the baseball programs are being maintained by the booster clubs. And we're funding quite a bit of the maintenance equipment, maintenance supplies, and it's coming out of our budgets, which could go to do some additional things which are being done for the softball fields. The field conditions at Lamar specifically, we've got drainage issues at home plate, first base and third base. We have a halo at home plate that needs work. It's unlevel and needs replacement. We have an actual 14-inch drop behind third base, and fields need to be upgraded and releveled. My biggest safety concern, other than the lights, are the Lamar bleachers. They are wooden. They have had parents that have literally stepped through them. We have young children that can fall off the back because there are no safety requirements on the back sides of the baseball bleachers. Have talked with O.J. Kemp for 3 years on this issue. Been told that there's not enough money in the budget for us to address that until another bond issue comes up. Other high schools in Arlington have been replaced. Sam and Martin specifically were replaced in the last year. The bleachers are not ADA compliant. 3 sections are wooden and need to be discarded, and there are some significant issues with parents and grandparents falling or almost falling. Unsafe boards are weak and broken. Large gaps are broken between the boards, and again, there's no backing on the upper levels. The metal bleachers that we do have could be retrofitted to meet with ADA compliance and hand steps and rails.
Thank you, Ms. Sutherland. Dr. Cavazos leaned over to me and said, please make sure your contact information is to Ms. Jones, and they will look into it
Great,
and reach out to you.
thank you very much. And
Thank you.
I will leave this if y'all would like to.
Please, by all means. Thank you. Next up on our agenda is the superintendent's report. Dr. Cavazos.
Thank you, President Hogg, and this evening I'd like to share some information about our district. Last month, I had the opportunity to participate in the Tarrant County Asian American Chamber of Commerce Egg Roll Festival. Our district was well represented with tables about employment, parent engagement, and how to do business with the district, which represented the district well, so I thank staff that was able to be there. Also last month, we had the Dean Corey Marching Extravaganza. More than 2,000 students from 7th grade through college seniors took the field in the finale. And it was truly a sight to see those students engaged in fine arts, and it really sounded nice. Actually, sounded really nice. Had the opportunity to participate in International Walk to School Day with students and parents of Berry Elementary. President Hogg was able to join us as well, and we walked with more than 200 participants, walking 3/4 of a mile to school. And the Arlington Police Department Deputy Chief Oz Flores was also instrumental in helping us put this walk together, so I congratulate Berry Elementary for their first walk and a great turnout. The Arlington Council of PTA held its annual celebration of Freedom Run, starting at the administration building here, and it was a beautiful day. It was a rather cold morning, but it was beautiful for the first time. It also included a health fair, so I thank the PTA for their involvement and their support of our schools. Also had the opportunity to participate with Board Vice President Jamie Sullins in Studers Education, Studers What's Right in Education Summit or conference, and we were able to present. Jamie and I were able to present in different sessions about our school district and highlight the things that we're doing with Studer and with our strategic plan. Dunn Elementary celebrated 40th anniversary last week, and many students and teachers and past students and parents and teachers were able to join us in that celebration. Dunn Elementary did an outstanding job with that program, 40th anniversary celebration. The Pantego Cops for Kids program raised over $1,000 worth of school supplies for students at Swift Elementary. And during the month of September and October, motorists who were stopped for violating traffic rules in Pantego had the opportunity to receive a warning and promised that they would donate school supplies. Wow, and so a lot of people took them up on that offer, and it was an important initiative that yielded some school supplies for some students. For the first time in the school's more than 100-year history, Arlington High retired a player's jersey last Friday. Luke Jokel was an all-state offensive lineman as a senior in 2009, and he went on to Texas A&M University and won the 2012 Outland Trophy. He was second overall pick in the 2013 NFL Draft, and so they retired this jersey, and it was a wonderful event. And Mr. Hibbs was able to join the Arlington High pep rally that day and join the excitement. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Cavazos. Now, if you can just get the APD to do red light cameras, cops for kids, I would. I think some of my other colleagues would appreciate that because I've definitely gotten a red light camera or two. So that rolling on red stop catches me every time. So, and my wife lectures me every time that occurs. Now we'll move into school board reports. Mr. Hibbs.
Very quickly, I'd like to congratulate the Arlington Lady Colts for winning district for volleyball. We had 3 teams that actually made it to the playoffs from Arlington, Arlington Lamar, Arlington High, and Martin. Martin and Arlington High both won their matches on Tuesday, and they will play tomorrow night. Martin's playing Amarillo, and I think Lamar, they're playing, is it Wichita Falls? Something like that up in Childress. So those 2 teams, we want to wish them the best luck as they continue to roll through the playoffs. And tonight, we had a number of Arlington teams play on Thursday night this week. Arlington High beat North Crowley 61-7. Lamar beat Pascal 70-21, and Martin beat Bowie 47-18. So it was so some big wins for the school district. We'll probably be putting 4 teams into the playoffs from Arlington. 5 teams. No, Seguin. Well, yes. Thank you. So.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Hibbs. Mr. Pompa.
Just one quick and really kind of kudos to our staff, and I know that there's some areas that we're missing out on, but I was at Martin High School last week for a football game, and I noticed that some of the light bulbs were out, and I did call the administration, and they were repaired very quickly. So I'm assuming that we can do that at all our other schools as we discover that there are issues. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pompa. Seeing no other lights, Mr. Secretary, do we have any items to consider?
No, we do not. We had an item, but Dr. Cavazos already took care of it before I could write it down.
That's why we extended his contract. So it is now 11:01 p.m. and this meeting is adjourned.